Three Nepali pilgrims killed in India bus crash, more than 30 were injured as bus carrying around 45 pilgrims hit parked truck in Jharkhand. Heavy rains trigger landslide in western Nepal causing casualties. Landslide killed 4 in Rolpa, 1 missing in Bajura. Nepal forms panel to implement Gen Z protest agreements. Committee to coordinate support for injured and families of those killed. Record rains kill at least 8 in eastern Japan. Flooding and landslide disrupt transport, leave thousands stranded at Tokyo airport. US accuses 40 nations of helping China evade tariffs. Trump administration targets trade route as Albanese seek tariff exemption for Australia. And Nepal cricket team heads to India ahead of ACC Premier Cup, side to train in India before travelling to Malaysia for regional tournament. Good evening, I'm Suveksha Rajak and this is NTV World Primetime News. We are coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere, it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now, the news in detail. At least 3 Nepali pilgrims have been killed and more than 34 others injured after their bus crashed into a stationary truck in India's Jharkhand state on Friday. The bus was carrying around 45 pilgrims from Nepal's Rautarhat district who had travelled to Deoghar to visit the Hindu shrine of Baba Baidyanath Dham. The group was heading toward Rajgir in Bihar when the bus hit the back of a truck parked by roadside near Pokhara More. The dead were identified as 10-year-old Shivam Kumar, 60-year-old Sundar Bala and 60-year-old Naval Kishore. 7 of the injured are reported to be in critical condition. Police said all the injured were taken to a community health center, while those in serious conditions were referred to a district hospital for further treatment. The pilgrims had left Rautarhat for India about 4 days earlier. 4 people have been killed in landslides triggered by heavy rain in Rolpa district in western Nepal. The landslide struck Harbang and Phalbang in Sunchari rural municipality too overnight. The victims include 3 women and 1 man aged between 57 and 70. 2 of the victims were a married couple, while another woman was visiting their home. Police and local residents are continuing rescue efforts at these sites. 3 people were also injured when a landslide buried a cow shed and damaged a nearby house. The incident comes just days after another landslide in Thabang killed 10 people. 3 others remain missing, while 2 critically injured victims are receiving treatment in Butwal. Meanwhile, 1 person is missing and 2 others have been injured after a landslide buried a house in Bajura district of western Nepal. The landslide struck Tamsu in Triveni municipality 9 following overnight heavy rain. 20-year-old Pratiksha Thapa is missing, while 2 locals, Dharma Thapa and Dholi Devi Rawal, were injured. They have been taken to the district hospital in Martadi for treatment. Police have deployed a 17-member rescue team with equipment to search for the missing woman. However, continued heavy rain is making rescue and search operations difficult. Flooding in the Modi River has damaged roads, bridges and religious structures in Kaski district of western Nepal. Rising water washed away part of the new bridge Birethanti Khandruk Road, disrupting traffic in the area. 3 men, including a priest, were rescued after becoming stranded at the Mata Annapurna temple, located on the island-like area in the river. A 13-member disaster response team has been deployed for rescue and security operations. Authorities warn the river could rise further if heavy rain continues, putting nearly settlements and the temple's areas at risk. Residents have been urged to remain on high alert. Nepal Communist Party parliamentary leader Khagaraj Bhatta has been appointed Chief Minister of Nepal's Sudur Paschim province. Province Chief Nazir Mian appointed Bhatta under Article 168, Sub-Article 2 of Nepal's constitution after he staked a claim to form the government with the support of the Nepal Communist Party and CPN-UML. Bhatta was sworn on Friday and has since taken office as the province's 5th Chief Minister. Following his appointment, Bhatta said the new role carries greater responsibility and pledged to focus on political stability and development in Sudar Paschim. He has also appointed 3 ministers and 1 state minister to his cabinet. Bhatta's appointment follows the resignation of former Chief Minister Kamal Bahadur Shah. Province Chief Mian has called for the formation of a new government after Shah stepped down. Nepal's Home Minister Gurung has defended the Home Secretary and Police Chief, saying officials should not be declared guilty or have their reputations damaged simply because complaints have been filed against them. Speaking at a parliamentary committee meeting, Gurung said allegations must be addressed through due legal and judicial procedures rather than by treating complaints as proof of wrongdoing.
प्रहरी प्रमुखज्यूहरूलाई जसरी जुन व्यवहारले एउटा समितिले प्रस्तुत गर्नुभयो त्यसमा चाहिँ गृहमन्त्रीको ध्यान आकर्षण भएको छ दिस इज नट राइट दिस इज नट गुड कसैलाई एउटा भनौं न उजुरीको भरमा हामी न्यायाधीश बन्न चाहिँ मिल्दैन र आरोप हो त्यो आरोप जो कोहीले लाउनु सक्यो भन्दैमा कसैको चरित्र हत्या चाहिँ गर्न पाइदैन त्यो चाहिँ मेरो विचारमा त्यसमा नि कानुनमा के गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई चाहिँ It is not good. अनि हाम्रो गृह मन्त्रालयकै ध्यान आकर्षण भएको छ यसमा चाहिँ यो चौकीदारको नियुक्तिमा हामीले ट्रान्सपेरेन्ट हिसाबले गर्नुपर्ने जेल जाँदाखेरि मान्छेले कमाएर आउने भयो क्या समस्या चाहिँ यो होइन बुझ्नुभयो नि हैन अनि यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले मान्छेलाई त बारम्बार जेल जानु मन लाग्यो तपाईले जति तपाई हामीले समितिमा बैठक गरेर पनि यो तरिकाले हामीले जति जे गरे नि त्यो कतिखेर के क्राइम गरौँ र भित्र गएर पैसा कमाउँ जस्तो गरेर एउटा माइन्डसेट हुन थाल्यो क्या मान्छेले भित्र गएर कमाउँछ भन्दा बाहिर भन्दा भित्र कमाउँछ त मान्छे भित्र जाने परिवार पाल्न त हैन त्यही भएर यो चौकीदारको नियुक्तिमा पनि ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी आओस् भनेर हामीले त्यही हाम्रो महानिर्देशक ज्यू डी साहबलाई हामी त्यही अनुसार निर्देशन पनि दिएको छौं.
The Home Minister also said the government has temporarily suspended prison appointments amid concerns over irregularities and misuse of prison facilities, with new transparent criteria to be introduced. Let's take a short break here. We'll be back with more updates. Welcome back. You are watching NTV World Primetime News. Nepal has formed a 13-member committee to oversee implementations of agreements reached with Gen Z protesters and affected families. The panel will coordinate support in education, healthcare and employment and address practical challenges in delivering the government's integrated package.
Gen Z आन्दोलनका शहीद परिवार र घाइतेहरूका लागि चाहिँ एउटा समन्वित पुनर्स्थापना गर्न जीवनयापन तथा सामाजिक संरक्षण सम्बन्धी एकीकृत प्याकेजको स्वीकृति गरेको छ र त्यो प्याकेजमा भएका कुराहरू र त्यो सम्झौता को विषयलाई चाहिँ कार्यान्वयन गर्नको लागि अन्तर्मन्त्रालयगत अन्तर्निकायगत समन्वय र सहजीकरण गर्ने उद्देश्यले यस कार्यालयको सहसचिवको संयोजकतामा संयोगले म नै त्यसको संयोजक छु र त्यो सँगै अर्थ मन्त्रालय गृह मन्त्रालय लगायत अन्य 7 वटा मन्त्रालयका प्रतिनिधिहरू रहेर यहाँ यस कार्यालयको प्रादेशिक तथा के भन्छ कूटनीतिक मामिला राष्ट्रिय सुरक्षा कूटनीतिक मामिला शाखाको उपसचिव सदस्य सचिव रहने गरी 13 जनाहरूको मेम्बरहरू रहने गरी एउटा कमिटी गठन भएको छ। त्यसमा चाहिँ शहीद परिवारको तर्फबाट 2 जना र घाइते जेनजी आन्दोलनका घाइतेहरूको तर्फबाट 2 जना प्रतिनिधि समेत रहने गरी एउटा कमिटी गठन भएको छ र त्यो कमिटीले आफ्नो पहिलो बैठक बसेर कार्यारम्भ पनि गरिसकेको छ।
The committee will facilitate implementation and review progress on the agreements and support package. Moving on, Professor Dr. Vivek Baral has been appointed Vice Chancellor of Kathmandu University. Prime Minister and University Chancellor Balendra Shah appointed Baral following a recommendation from the Vice Chancellor Selection Committee. Baral is a professor of mechanical engineering at Kathmandu University. He becomes the first person educated at the university to later serve as its Vice Chancellor. He holds a master's degree from the University of Tokyo in Japan and a PhD from the University of Auckland in New Zealand. Baral's areas of expertise includes energy and fuels, combustion science, environmental pollution, and thermofluid engineering. Amid public outcry over an apparent shortage of cooking gas in Nepal, the government says there is no actual shortage. It says daily LPG distribution has been increased to around 132,000 cylinders. Officials say monthly LPG supply has reached about 52,000 tons compared with normal consumption of 42,000 to 45,000 tons. The government has also asked India to raise Nepal's LPG import quota to 60,000 metric tons for the next 3 months. Authorities have urged consumers not to panic buy or stockpile gas. They are also preparing round-the-clock sales at 50 locations with priority given to households with a single cylinder or elderly people, people with disabilities and new mothers. Nepal's government has tightened controls on foreign travel by civil servants and other government employees, introducing new rules aimed at reducing unnecessary trips and public spending. The Prime Minister's office has directed all ministries and government agencies to obtain prior approval before nominating any employee for an overseas visit. Foreign trips without approval will no longer be permitted. Under the new rules, officials must also share the knowledge and experience gained during their trip with colleagues within 5 days of returning to work. The government says the measures are intended to make official travel more economical, transparent, and result-oriented. Time again for a breather. We shall see you at the other side with international updates. Welcome back. Time now for international updates. At least 8 persons have died as record rainfall pummeled eastern Japan and left thousands stranded at Tokyo's Narita airport. The rains, which authorities have described as unprecedented, cut power to more than 20,000 households in Chiba Prefecture. Local authorities issued a level 5 emergency warning, its highest alert on Thursday. This was downgraded to a level 4 by Friday morning, but they continue to warn of landslide and flooding risk. The deluge comes after a series of storms swept through Japan and neighboring countries this week in what meteorologists forecast to be an unusually active typhoon season. At least 7 workers were killed and 13 others injured after a sudden surge of water and debris swept into under-construction tunnel at a hydropower project in India's northern state of Uttarakhand. 18 workers have been unsafely evacuated and taken to a nearby hospital, while others remain trapped inside the tunnel as rescue operations continue. The incident prompted a major emergency response, with multiple agencies working to clear debris and reach the trapped workers. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has Administration has said that more than 40 countries has helped China step up U.S. tariffs by routing exports through nations that face lower American import duties. The countries named include Canada, India, Mexico, Japan and South Korea, which the White House said had helped China evade tens of billions of dollars in tariffs, which are levied on companies importing goods. The U.S. accused China of taking advantage of the practice by moving goods through nations that have lower import duties. White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro said it had cost American jobs and billions in revenue. The report follows a wave of sanctions between the U.S. and China and comes week before U.S. President Donald Trump will meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Washington. Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said he had asked U.S. President Donald Trump during a phone call to grant Australia an exemption from tariffs exposed on the country last month. Albanese said he had requested either a full exemption or at very least no further increase in the tariff.
We have a different position when it comes to tariffs. And of course, our position as a government is that tariffs are an economic imposition and a cost on the countries that are imposing them. And we support free and fair trade. The President, of course, has a different position that he's expressed on many times.
Turkey is urging Egypt to join a new defense agreement signed by Saudi Arabia and Pakistan as Ankara pushes for broader regional security cooperation. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan reiterated the call, while Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati said Cairo would first need to conduct an in-depth assessment of the agreement. He said the review would include its legal and constitutional implications before Egypt decides whether to join the pact. The developments come amid wider efforts to strengthen defense cooperation among the countries in the region. Let's take another short breather here. We will be back with more international and sports updates. Thai schools have introduced tighter security measures following last week's deadly shooting near Bangkok. Students are now facing stricter checks, with teachers inspecting bags, pockets and even pencil cases before classes begin. The measures follow the August 7th attack in which a 14-year-old killed his grandparents, 5 school staff members and a pupil before taking his own life. The government has ordered schools nationwide to strengthen security and prevent weapons from being brought into school premises. Authorities say the measures are aimed at protecting students and staff amid renewed concerns over school safety. French authorities are stepping up efforts to protect fragile Posidonia seagrass meadows along the Mediterranean coast during the peak summer tourism season. Diving teams from the DDTM and Port Cross National Park are patrolling the seabed in the Var region to monitor damage caused by boat anchors and heavy chains. The underwater meadows are a vital marine ecosystem and are often described as the lungs of the Mediterranean. Posidonia seagrass helps absorb carbon dioxide, produce oxygen and protect coastlines from erosion. Authorities are increasing surveillance as large numbers of recreational boats put growing pressure on the sensitive coastal habitat. Brussels' historic main square has been transformed into giant floral artwork with 750,000 dahilas arranged to recreate Katsushika Hokusai's iconic Great Wave of Kanagawa. Volunteers place the flowers by hand on a numbered carpet, gradually bringing the intricate design to life. The installation combines traditional Japanese art with Belgium's renowned floral display, drawing visitors to one of the Brussels' most famous landmarks. The floral display offers a striking interpretation of the famous 19th century Japanese woodblock print. China's popular latio, or spicy strips, are taking their sweet, spicy and chewy flavor to the world, with the snack now exported to more than 160 countries. Made from wheat flour dough cooked at high temperature and pressure, latio has long been a favorite snack in China and is now finding growing demand overseas. As a newly built factory in central China, workers are producing and packaging the fiery strips on a larger scale to keep up with international orders. The unusual snack has become a quirky example of how Chinese food trends are expanding beyond the country's borders. Producers say growing exports are pushing the latio market towards greater internationalization. Time now for the sports updates. Nepal's national cricket team has been sent off for a training camp in India ahead of the ACC Premier Cup in Malaysia. The Cricket Association of Nepal says the team will train in India before travelling directly to Malaysia for the tournament, which begins on August 29. Captain Sandeep Lamichhane said the team has identified past mistakes and is focused on improving its performance. Head coach Stuart Law said the India camp will focus on addressing weaknesses identified during the World Cup League 2 and developing new strategies. He also said Malaysia's slower spin-friendly pitches could favour Nepal's bowling attack. New Zealand has broken rank with Oceania's football governing body to become the latest nation to withdraw from the FIFA president Gianni Infantino. Infantino has lost support from three regions: Confederation, Europe's UEFA, the Asian Football Confederation AFC, and CONCACAF, North and Central America and the Caribbean, over his aborted plans to sell 20% of the World Cup's commercial rights to private investors. The Confederation of African Football and South American governing body CONMEBOL have backed the 56-year-old to win a fourth presidential term at the FIFA Congress in March. New Zealand have followed several individual member nations, including England, Wales, Norway, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, in confirming they would not support Infantino's re-election bid. Tennis is gaining popularity in the Philippines following the rapid rise of 21-year-old Alexandra Ella, the country's first homegrown tennis sensation. Her success has sparked growing interest in the sport, with more children taking to courts across Manila and aspiring to follow her footsteps. On a Manila court made of crushed seashells, young players are now beginning their own tennis journeys, inspired by the emerging star. Her rise is giving the sport a new generation of young followers and helping drive a growing tennis boom across the country. Tennis has traditionally been viewed as a sport for the country's wealthier communities, but Ella's breakthrough is helping broaden its appeal. This brings us to the end of this edition, but before we say goodbye, here is a quick reminder of our top stories. 3 Nepali pilgrims killed in India bus crash, more than 34 injured as bus carrying around 45 pilgrims hit spark truck in Jharkhand. Heavy rains trigger landslides in western Nepal, causing casualties. Landslide killed 4 in Rolpa, 1 missing in Bajura. Nepal forms panel to implement Gen Z protest agreements, committed to coordinate support for injured and families of those killed. Record rains kill at least 8 in eastern Japan. Flooding and landslide disrupt transport, leave thousands stranded at Tokyo airport. U.S. accuses 40 nations of helping China evade tariffs. Trump administration targets trade routes as Albany seeks tariff exemption for Australia. And Nepal cricket team heads to India ahead of ACC Premier Cup side to train in India before travelling to Malaysia for regional tournament. That's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Suveksha Rajak and thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage.
Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World. Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Welcome to the Hinterlands on NTV World. This weekly show brings together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal, takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. I am Rosina Rai. We begin in Bardia district, where the timeless sound of the sarangi is slowly fading. For generations, members of the Gandharva community traveled from village to village, playing Nepal's iconic traditional string instrument while sharing stories, folklore and local news. Today, however, this centuries-old tradition is at risk, with only a handful of musicians continuing to preserve this unique cultural heritage. Here is our first report.
पहिला सारिङ बजाउँदामा गाउँघरमा घुम्दाखेरि एउटा घरमा बजाउँदाखेरि गाउँभरिकाले आएर सुन्दै महत्त्वपूर्ण गर्थे अनि कति घरघरमा बोलाएर लिन्थे कसैले अनि कति सेवा संस्कार गर्थे अहिले त हातमा मोबाइल छन् घरमा टिभी छन् अनि उतातिर मोबाइलतिर हेर्छन्
65-year-old Birjit Gandharva has lived in Badhaiyatal rural municipality in Bardia as a landless resident since 1994. Playing sarangi has been associated to the Gandharvas for ages, but the traditional profession is almost extinct now. Many like Birjit, who have nothing but the traditional instrument to make a living, have now been lured by alternative profession or foreign employment. While the sarangi has long been his family's livelihood for a long time, Birjit says it is no longer enough to support his household. The sound of the sarangi, once a familiar part of daily life in this Gandharva community of Bardia district in midwestern Nepal, is now rare. Located in Ward number 4 of Badhaiyatal rural municipality in Bardia, the settlement is home to 105 households, including 65 from the Gandharva community. Families who migrated here from other parts of Nepal like Dailek, Jajarkot, Surkhet, Salyan, Rukum and Dang districts have lived here since 1993. While playing the sarangi was once the main source of income for most households, today only 5 or 6 residents here continue the tradition, and that too only occasionally.
गाउँतिर अब कहिले उसै सारी लिएर जाने कहिले काम गर्ने कहिले रिक्सा चलाउने कहिले इन्डियातिर जाने सबै काम गरियो सर त्यसै गरेर जीविका चलाइएको छ त्यहाँतिर हुर्काइयो अझै हुर्काउँदैछु सर
Limited access to farmland, education and alternative employment, along with declining income and recognition for the sarangi performers, has driven many young Gandharvas to take up other occupations or seek work abroad. Community members say financial hardship has also prevented many children from continuing their formal education. In such a situation, Gandharva community leaders say the traditional art of playing the sarangi and their unique cultural heritage are no longer being passed on to the younger generation.
अब अहिले नयाँ पुस्ता चाहिँ तपाईको चाहिँ वैदेशिक रोजगारीमा कहीं कतै यसो चाहिँ तपाईको चाहिँ साउदी अरबतिर कतारतिर जाने स्थिति बनेको छ भने धेरै युवाहरू चाहिँ भारतको कालापार गएर जीवन गुजारा गरिरहेको अवस्था छ र सारंगी नछुने एउटा चाहिँ तपाईको चाहिँ एउटा खालको स्थिति बनेको छ.
The sarangi is more than a musical instrument. The traditional bowed musical instrument also reflects the history, identity, and cultural heritage of the Gandharva community and is an important part of Nepal's folk music tradition. However, without stronger efforts to preserve and promote it, community leaders warn that this unique cultural legacy could gradually disappear.
From preserving culture to protecting indigenous crops, Nepal recently marked the second National Millet Day, renewing efforts to promote millet cultivation, improve nutrition and strengthen food security. But despite these initiatives, the latest data show that both the area under millet cultivation and national production continue to decline. This report comes from Gulmi district. The second National Millet Day is observed across Nepal with the slogan Conserving and Promoting Millet Crops for Food and Nutrition Security. Following the United Nations declaration of 2023 as the International Year of Millets, Nepal has stepped up efforts to conserve, promote and expand millet cultivation. The day aims to protect indigenous crops, promote nutritious food systems and encourage farmers to expand millet cultivation. Although millet is grown in all 77 districts of Nepal, hilly districts such as Gulmi, Arghakasi, Bhutan, Palpa, Baglung and Sangza remain the country's major production hubs. Despite its nutrition importance, the government data shows that the cultivation and overall millet production have been declining in recent years. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, millet was cultivated on 224,935 hectares of land, producing 300,732 metric tons in the fiscal year 2023-24. In 2024-25, the cultivated area declined to 214,477 hectares, while production dropped to 284,352 metric tons. A similar declining trend has been observed in Gulmi and other hilly districts of the country. Several millet varieties, including kodo, finger millet, junelo, sorghum millet, kaguno foxtail millet, and chino proso millet, are cultivated across Nepal's diverse agroclimatic zones.
कोदो एकदम जहाँ रोपे पनि फल्छ तर यसको लगानी ठुलो छ अब यो लगानीको लागि अलि कृषिलाई चाहिने अलि राज्यले पनि हेर्ने
कोदो रोपेको हो के मरे त्यता 300 350 भन्छन् के
Traditionally used to prepare dhiro, a traditional Nepali staple food, flatbread, and local beverages, millet is now gaining popularity among people as the demand for healthy and nutritious food continues to rise. Meanwhile, farmers in Rumzatar, Okhaldunga in eastern Nepal also celebrated the second National Millet Day by emphasizing the conservation, promotion, and branding of millet and millet-based products. On the occasion, 7 leading millet farmers were honored for their outstanding contribution to millet cultivation. Our next story takes us to Sangza district, where a historic hilltop village is fighting to preserve its identity. Kolmakot is known for its stunning Himalayan views, rich history and distinctive cultural heritage, but like many rural communities across Nepal, it is being reshaped by migration, and meanwhile residents want that without greater investment in conservation and a stronger tourism promotion, the village's unique identity could gradually disappear.
Perched about 1,450 meters above sea level, Kolmakot overlooks parts of central Nepal and the northern Himalayan range. Despite its scenic landscape and cultural significance, the village has received little attention as a tourist destination. Local historians say Kolmakot's name comes from a traditional stone oil press once used to extract mustard oil, reflecting the area's long agricultural history.
तोरीपेल थियो गरे तोरीपेलेर तेल झारेर यहाँ चाहिँ कोल बनाएर त्यो ठाउँको नाम कोलमा राखेका रे हेर्नुस् अब यति भएर हामीले यसलाई संरक्षण गरेर राखौं भनेर यतिको बनाएर राखिएछ.
Residents say the village has long been home to Gurung and Dalit communities and continues to preserve elements of its traditional culture. To support the local economy, villagers have opened homestays for visitors. But many younger residents have moved to cities in search of education, jobs, and better opportunities, leaving the community increasingly deserted. Locals now fear that if the trend continues, Kolmakot's history and cultural identity could fade along with its shrinking population. In response, residents have begun working to preserve the village's heritage and promote it as a tourism destination.
कोलमावर भन्दा भन्दा कोलमा हुँदा हुँदा पछि कोलमा रहेको भन्ने चाहिँ एउटा बनाइहरु चाहिँ पाइयो र लामो समयसम्म पनि त्यो ढुङ्गा सुरक्षित भएको कारणले अहिले हामी अलिकति बुझ्ने अलिकति पछि गाउँको लागि एउटा पर्यटकीय पहिचान पनि हुन्छ भन्ने सोचले सम्बन्धित गाविसहरुमा पनि यो कोल संरक्षणको लागि
Residents say better infrastructure and stronger promotion of lesser-known heritage sites could attract more visitors, create new sources of income, and help keep rural communities alive for future generations.
Now to Kanchanpur. For decades, Nepal's endangered Raji community has struggled with poverty, landlessness, and social exclusion. Although the government introduced a social security allowance more than 2 decades ago to support this highly marginalized indigenous community of the country, many Raji families still live without a secure land, remain vulnerable to flooding, and have few opportunities to earn a stable income. For many, the dream of a safe and dignified future remains out of reach.
पहिला भन्दा त खाना त पाइन्छ पहिला त धेरै दुःख पाइयो 4-5 दिनको भोकले पनि एक छाक पनि खान पाइएन कति भोग्यो कति के गरियो अहिले भर्खर अलिअलि सजिलो भएछ.
The Raji are one of Nepal's most endangered and marginalized indigenous communities. Despite decades of government support, many families continue to struggle with poverty, landlessness, and limited opportunities. For 63-year-old Jalu Raji of Bhajani municipality in Koilali, life has always been closely tied to the forest and rivers. She is one of the representatives of Raji community. Once a nomadic people, the Raji traditionally lived along riverbanks and in forest, surviving by catching fish and gathering wild roots and tubers. In 2062 BS, the government of Nepal introduced a monthly social security allowance for members of the endangered Raji community. Permanent settlements were also established, helping many families move away from the traditional nomadic lifestyle. But while their way of life had changed, many of their challenges remain. Most Raji families still do not own registered land. Jobs are scarce, and the small plots they cultivate are often damaged by floods from the Kandra River, leaving farming an unreliable source of income. For many households, the monthly allowance has become their main means of survival. Community members say it has helped reduce hunger, but it has not lifted them out of poverty. The Raji community is concentrated in Koilali, Bardia, Surkhet, and Chitwan districts. According to 2021 National Population and Housing Census, Nepal is home to 5,125 Raji people. More than half, that is 2,521, live in Sudur Pashchim province, including 2,375 in Koilali and 113 in Kanchanpur.
घर अग्लो बनाइदिए भए हुन्थ्यो अनि बाढी आउँछ हाम्रो समस्या
पहिला पुर्ख्यौली चाहिँ त्यो मह र त्यो गिठा नै निकाल्थे त्यहीमा मान्छे पहिला सिन्थे अनि यही अलिअलि काहीँ मजदुरी गर्थे
अब कहाँ सजिलो रह्यो पहिले सजिलो रह्यो पहिले जाउँ चीज फिर बढ़े रहा था अब तो डॉक्टर बिना नहीं बने.
Community members say government support should go beyond monthly allowances. They are calling for secure land ownership, safer housing, better education, and sustainable employment opportunities, measures they believe are essential to ensuring a dignified and self-reliant future for the Raji community.
The growing stray cattle crisis has emerged as one of the most pressing challenges in Nepal's Tarai region, threatening both agriculture and public safety. Despite millions of rupees spent by local and provincial governments on cattle shelters and management program, farmers continue to suffer heavy crop losses while stray cattle remain a serious hazard on the roads. Experts say lasting solutions will require stronger policies, better coordination, and sustainable livestock management, not cattle shelters alone. Here is our final report. The stray cattle crisis has become one of the biggest agricultural and public safety challenges in Nepal's Tarai region. Thousands of abandoned cattle roam freely across the districts such as Koilali and Kanchanpur, damaging crops and creating serious risk for motorists and pedestrians. In response, local and provincial governments have invested more than 150 million Nepali rupees, about 987,000 US dollars. Despite the significant spending, the crisis remains the same. Dhangarhi sub-metropolitan city alone has spent 26.3 million rupees on building and operating gausalas, cow shelters. Other local governments have also invested millions of rupees in similar efforts. Among local governments, Dhangarhi sub-metropolitan city has achieved comparatively better results through regular rescue operations and improved shelter management. Even so, farmers continue to lose crops and stray cattle remain a major road safety hazard. Without strong policies, better coordination, and sustained long-term investment, the crisis is expected to continue affecting thousands across the lowlands.
लगभग 5-4-5 लाख मर्नु हुन्छ एकै ठाउँमा 2-3 करोड लगानी गरेर पुरा त्यो गौशालाले म्युजियम बनाएर त अर्थ भनिन्छ.
The data show stray cattle have been linked to the deaths of 7 people over the past 3 years.
दुर्घटनाको संख्या बढी गएको भएर यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले विकराल समस्याको रूपमा लिएका छौं.
Authorities say continuous rescue operation and better management of shelters have helped reduce the number of stray cattle on major highways.
सामानहरु सामग्रीहरु हैन अनि त्यो भौतिक आवश्यकता सेडहरु हामीले बनायो.
The continuing crisis exposes gap not only in implementation but also in monitoring and long-term planning, and demand coordinated action from all levels of government, local communities and other stakeholders. Beyond the cities and the headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories are shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the hinterlands, and we will come back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. Do follow us on our website, nepaltelevision.com, social media handles, and YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye for now.
स्वागत छ लुक्लामा तपाईहरुलाई. राम्रोसँग आउनुभयो. के प्लेनमा डरहरु लाग्नु भएन? प्लेन भित्तैमा ठोकेला जस्तो हुन्छ यहाँ त.
At an altitude of 2,860 meters, Lukla is the starting point of arguably one of the best trekking routes in the world, up to the Mount Everest base camp, finishing above 5,400 meters. Ram is one of hundreds of seasonal porters in the route.
अब यो त मान्छेलाई पनि यस्तै हो सजिलो त सर. यो किनभने हिलो हुँदैन. बेस क्याम्प जाँदा अब क्याम्पको 1000 रुपियाँ हुन्छ डबल बारी बोकेर 2-3 क्याम्प जति हिँडिन्छ त्यतिखेर चाहिँ 5000 जति बस्छ।
The route is popular, in fact crowded. This is only for the 2 months of April and May, and so is the profession of Ram a seasonal affair.
अब कुनै खेर पाइन्छ कुनै खेर पाइँदैन मान्छे यतिकै हुन्छ र अब कुनै खेर त अब 4-5 दिन यतिकै बसेकै बजारतिर आयो घुम्यो यतिकै फेरि कोठामा फर्केर आयो अब बाँकी खाना खाँदै बस्यो यस्तै हो सर। विदेश जाउँ त अब लाग्छ जानुलाई पनि फेरि अलिक गाह्रै छ पैसा चाहिन्छ अब पैसा छैन। त्यो पेसामा पढाइ चाहिँ पुरुषहरू नै हुन्छ महिलाहरू पनि आधी उधी हुन्छ सर। बिहानदेखि कहिले अब घाम लागिरहन्छ एकछिनमा यस्तो बादल आइहाल्छ डुममा भइहाल्छ यहाँको मौसम यस्तै हो सर। पढेको भए त बाँकी अब सानोतिनो जबहरू हुन्थ्यो कि।
Trekkers pass through nearly 6-7 small hamlets along the Lukla-Namche section of the route.
यहाँ सबै घरमा बिजुली पानीको राम्रो व्यवस्था छ सर।
The locals do not have infrastructures or might have resected roads, but they have embraced development.
नाम्चे लुक्ला सबै बाटोभरि नै फोहोर राख्ने बाटो राखिदिनु भएको छ।
The topography is inhospitable, but the people are friendly.
यहाँ हरेक गाउँको आफ्नो आफ्नै हाइड्रो बिजुली निकाल्ने पावर छ।
Solar panels give much needed warm water to survive the cold. No wonder everything comes at a cost here. Charging a cell phone or getting a Wi-Fi connection.
पहिला साह्रै दुःख पाइयो मम्मी सानैमा बित्यो अनि पढ्नै पाएन यस्तो दुःख गर्नु परेछ। अब छोराछोरीलाई चाहिँ अब यस्तो दुःख गरेर भए पनि पढाउँछु। अङ्ग्रेजी बोल्ने भए त अब कति अब खैराहरू भेट्छन् हिजो पनि 4 जना भेटेको थियो फाल्टो ग्रुप अब अङ्ग्रेजी बोल्नु जानिदैन त्यही भएर पठाइदियो। ल अब यहाँ चाहिँ खाना खाने ठाउँ हो यहाँ खाना खानु पर्यो।
हजुर सबभन्दा धेरै थुक्पा नै हो किनभने अरू खाजा पनि जान्छ नि त जानु त बनायो भने जान्छ तर त्यो सकिहालेन भने फेरि त्यो बिग्रिन्छ के अमिलो।
Food is no more cooked in firewood like in the past, despite LP gas cylinders arriving either on humans' back or the beast of burdens. Our first day trek concludes at Phagding, a small hamlet at an altitude of 2610 meters. Almost all trekkers lodge here on the first day to acclimatize themselves for higher elevations. The place has amenities for travelers at par with an urban town, except roads and infrastructures.
यहाँ यो फलामको चिम्नी नभएको त गरै हुँदैन सर। यहाँ त फलामको चिम्नी गएन भने त जाडोले मरिहाल्छ।
As the dawn breaks, Ram emerges from his overnight elopement for lodging.
अब जाने होला सर उता। यो अलिक सपना बिग्रियो अनि त्यति राम्रो सुतेन। सपनामा त खै कस्तो अचम्मक सपना देख्यो। सपनामा चाहिँ बुढी चाहिँ अर्कैसँग गएको देखेको छ। खै केही कुरामा चाहिँ डिस्केस भएको जस्तो भयो अनि त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ कपडा सपडा प्याक गरेर हिँडेको सपना देख्यो। के गर्नु सकिएन खै कहिले के गर्ने हो मान्छे बुढी राम्रो छ। सपना चाहिँ त्यस्तो देखेँ कस्तो अचम्म लाग्यो। बुढी फेरि मभन्दा ठुलो छ कि मभन्दा त राम्री पनि छ ठुलो पनि छ। त्यस्तो सपना देख्दा चाहिँ कुनै केर चाहिँ अब डर पनि लाग्छ क्या बा पछि अब छोडेर हिँडिने हो कि आफूसँग केही नभएपछि त होइन बा अब हिँडिने हो कि जस्तो पनि लाग्छ। यो सागो हो यो सागो चाहिँ काठको बनाएको यो बर्खामा ठुलो पानी आउँछ ठुलो खोला हुँदाखेरि त बगाएर लगिहाल्छ फेरि बनाउँछ। यो चाहिँ पारी घाँस दाउराको लागि बनाउँछ।
The Khumbu region has more than a dozen suspension and concrete bridges to safely cross the Dudh Kosi, meaning Milk White Kosi and its tributaries. As we continue our steep climb towards Namche Bazaar, we pass through freshly felled pine trees.
यो चाहिँ घरको लागि काठ काटेको हो। यो घरको काठ काट्दाखेरि चाहिँ यो निस्केको दाउरा हो सर। यो दाउरा अब सधैँभरि फुल्दैन, कुनै बेला फुल्दाखेरि चाहिँ काट्ने।
Only permitted numbers are cut every year, while the locals do not forget to grow pine saplings in their backyard to replace the cut ones. This is the entry point of Sagarmatha National Park, a buffer zone guarded by Nepal Army. The small hamlet of around 200 houses is no less than a modern town as we venture around the next morning with Ram. We not only discover Ram's free-of-cost night laws, but also a secret tavern where porters gather to gamble.
टुरिस्ट आएन भने त अब यहाँ त अब गाह्रो छ नि सर। अब आलु मात्रै फलाएर अब के खानु यहाँ? त्यो पनि अब आलु धेर फल्दैन, कम फल्छ। टुरिस्ट आएन भने त धेरै गाह्रो छ सर। अब छनु त छ कि अझ यो भन्दा राम्रो, यो भन्दा नि अब राम्रो अब घरहरू बनाओस्, राम्रो सरसफाइ होस्, अब राम्रो सुविधा होस् न, त्यहाँदेखि चाहिँ आउँछ। यहाँ त अब त्यस्तो मोटरहरू आयो भने त फेरि हामीलाई गाह्रो भइहाल्छ नि सर। अब हामी फेरि अब हामी पोटरहरू फेरि त्यतिकै हुन्छ, बेरोजगार हुन्छ। अब हाम्रो त अब खै जिन्दगी त अब यस्तोले त अब गाह्रै हो। तर अब के गर्नु त सर, अब खासै अब केही अब गर्ने बाटै छैन हाम्रो। अब यही नै हो हाम्रो त।
A phone call from Lukla upsets us more than Ram, as he misses a much better opportunity to accompany trekkers to the base camp. The weather remains unfavorable as we fail to catch a glimpse of the Mount Everest. With a bit of dejection for not being able to see the roof of the world, we start our journey back to Lukla. On the way, Ram gives us a good news. He got another lucrative trip.
अब चाहिँ अलिक चाँडो जानु पर्ला हो सर। अब अझै म फेरि फर्केर नाम्चे पुग्नु पर्ने छ।
Back at Lukla, Ram prepares himself for the 14-day trip to the base camp with high hopes for making decent earning. It's time to part now, as Ram bids us goodbye in a haste in Lukla to make his dream come true. A roof for his wife and education for his little princess.
For decades, our computers have been getting faster. They've been getting smaller and smarter. And then came artificial intelligence, and suddenly machines began writing. They began creating, predicting, and even reasoning in ways we once thought were uniquely human. But there's another technological revolution quietly taking shape at the moment, and that is quantum computing. It promises to tackle problems that even our most powerful computers may struggle with, from discovering new medicines and materials to transforming cybersecurity and energy. But how close are we really? And what does this revolution mean for a country like Nepal and for the rest of the world? That's today's issue. Joining us on Insight is Mr. Ujjwal Roy. He's the founding president of the World AI Alliance. He's the founder CEO of Scale Build AI and is also a strategy lead for quantum software initiative at Quantum X. Mr. Roy, welcome to NTV World Insight.
Thanks for having me.
It's a lot of jargon. It's technical for common people to understand, of course. When we talk about quantum computing, it sounds heavy. How is it different from the computers that we are using today? And perhaps how is it different from artificial intelligence as well?
Yeah, sure. So I would actually like to clarify that artificial intelligence is a technology platform that can run either on computers of today or on quantum computers. It actually complements quantum computers. And how quantum computers are different compared to the current computers. So the current computers that we're using today, whether it's an iPhone 17 or any model of iPhone or MacBook or any of the PCs or any of the enterprise servers that's used in the data centers, all of those are classified under classical computers. It's classical computer. The quantum computers actually have very different physics and very different software protocol that is actually used to generate massive amount of compute for the same footprint. Just like in the classical computer, we have zeros and ones, right? So we say that classical computers operate on the binary system. Mm-hmm. We have very similar concept in quantum computer. However, there's a concept of superposition and entanglement. These are the two jargons that actually drives quantum computers. So in classical computers, 0 and 1 cannot exist at the same time. Either 0 exists or 1. But in quantum computers, zeros and ones can exist at the same time period. Mm-hmm. It's called superposition. And the other thing is entanglement. So zeros and ones shared across multiple qubits. So what it basically does is it actually exponentially increases the compute capacity.
Mm-hmm. The speed of it?
The speed of it or the amount of data that it can process. So, for example, the cryptographic principles or protocols of today, it would take the classical computers the whole age of the universe to break, or it's almost unbreakable. You cannot break it.
Maybe simplify, what do you mean by when you say cryptographic principle?
So the cryptographic principles that are in place today are called RSS and ECC, RSA and ECC. So these are the two major cryptographic principles that's been applied on anything that you use, whether you use your banking platform, your social media platform. So all of your data, your banking data, your financial data is secured by RSA and ECC. Your social media, your personal chat history and everything is secured by these companies by using these principles. And these are actually almost unhackable or almost unbreakable, utilizing the computers of today or utilizing the classical computers. However, for quantum computers, it's very easy to break. And the reason behind that is because it would take very, very large amount of time to break the encryption that is actually covered by ECC and RSA, the encryption principles that are used today. It would take almost millions and millions of years to break it. So no hacker would actually try to break it because no one is going to live that long, right? However, for quantum computers, the same encryption will take a couple seconds to break. So that's the amount of compute difference we're talking about when we're talking about going from classical to quantum.
Where exactly are we at the moment? Because the quantum computing has been, is it overhyped or have we made a breakthrough globally?
There has been some breakthroughs, but also there's a lot of like marketing hypes. So since I'm an expert in this field, I can actually see that the marketing stunts coming from IBM or Google or the top labs in the world like Stanford Quantum Lab or MIT Lab, They all want to look good. So yes, of course, there is some hype, and I think they do understand that the general public does not really have a very, very good understanding, or general public does not have their hands on the quantum computers, right? So it's easy to like win in this marketing game. However, there has been some breakthroughs. So two principles that I talked about earlier, quantum superposition and quantum entanglement, we have actually made significant breakthroughs where the Google labs, MIT lab, Stanford lab, they all have claimed that they have achieved the quantum superposition of bits, like zeros and ones existing at the same time. And also they have claimed that the entanglement of qubits, so that even if there is a large multimodal calculation that is being done on quantum computers, the qubits can stay entangled. I know I'm using a lot of technical jargons.
And is that the error that is a challenge?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge in quantum computing is the error rate. So it's called BER, bit error rate. So the bit error rate is very high, and the whole effort or hard work that all of these top quantum labs are trying to do, including IBM, is reducing that BER.
And how does it concern a general public, let's say, the errors? How does it make us prone to risk? Or what kind of risks can we face?
So right now, the general public does not really have any risk, because all of these quantum computers, they actually exist in these labs. And it's not, general publics are not exposed to the quantum computers or the risk that these computers poses, because these are all in the baby and pre-development stage, right? Or pre-market stage, I would say. They are all in the development stage. So general public does not really have to fear about things like this. However, there are some other things like HNDL, right? That is harvest now, decrypt later. Things like that. Those things does poses risk because all of our data that's been stored today, a lot of them are already hacked. Because we always hear that Experian just got hacked, which actually carries the credit data of most of the Americans and some of the other parts of the world too, right? So they actually know how much loan do we have, and what do we purchase using our credit card, and all of our asset holdings and all of that. So all of these have already been hacked. It's available on dark web. However, the data is encrypted, right? But when these hackers does have access to quantum computers at that time, they will be able to decrypt it. And
it sounds very risky to even explore quantum computing then. Why are we doing it?
So humanity, or the human civilization, it's always moving towards efficiency. We have always been going towards more and more efficient system. I think the first technology that we discovered was how to control fire and use fire to cook, or like use in industries to manufacture things, right? And then after that, we got electricity, right? And then we got telecommunication and internet, and now AI, personal computing software, all of that was in between. So we have always been going towards more and more efficient system, and quantum computers are actually very, very highly efficient system, much more efficient to the classical computers that we use today. So definitely that's the direction of the civilization where we're headed towards.
And which sectors do you think would be most advantaged by this technology?
So the top sectors would be the drug discovery. So if we're talking about the most advanced software in perspective of where it will be helping general public, right? So we'll actually see faster and faster drug discovery. It would not take us years and years to discover new drugs. Drugs for the rare diseases that most of the big pharma companies do not even invest in, because it's a rare disease, so very few people has it. So it does not make economic sense. Like cost of R&D would be way higher than the ROI, right? So things like those, we'll actually see like much faster drug discovery. We'll see drugs for rare diseases coming out very fast, because quantum computers would actually help us understand how the protein in our body folds. Whenever there is an injection of a new kind of drug in our body, whether it's an oral injection or it's a syringe injection, so it can actually simulate it very fast in maybe days to weeks, However, the current classical computers would take ages, like millions of years, to actually just find out how one protein in our body actually folds completely. So
that's a leap in health and pharmaceutical sector.
Yeah. But there will be like other sectors too, right? Like financial modelings. So we'll actually be able to invest better. We'll actually be able to know where to invest, what sector will do better. So like predicting the future would be a little bit, or like would be much better than how we are predicting the future with the classical computers. Also in the logistics, right? Like we'll be able to find the easier and faster routes that will save the price of or the cost of logistics. So logistics will become really cheap. Space exploration, right? That will actually become faster. New physics and mathematics discovery, or we call it new science discovery, we'll actually be able to find new formulas or new physics principles or new technologies much faster than how long it is taking us today.
A lot of us who have access to internet and devices are very much dependent on artificial intelligence. Do you think these two will be complementing each other? Will AI help in advancing quantum computing, or the other way around? How do you see them going in tandem?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, since we have AI here already, AI is already helping advance the quantum computing technology. However, I think AI and quantum computer hardware together, it's kind of like a match made in heaven. You can actually see much better AI when it runs on the quantum hardware, because AI actually needs speed of execution or like speed of processing that the quantum computers can provide. So we'll actually go into a very, very different age or very, very different era where things that we think of today as magic or impossible, might not even exist today, will start existing. Like technologies that we have not even thought of, or technologies that we think cannot really exist, will start existing. So life as we know of today will completely change.
You're based in New York,
yes,
but then you're here in Nepal for a short period of time to launch quantum computing company in here itself. Why did you feel the need, and is it the right time already? And what is the company going to look like? What is it going to do?
So I was one of the first guys in Nepal to also start the AI company. So I started Scale Build AI in early 2022 or late 2021 when I registered it, and literally started in 2022. So it was definitely one of the early movers in AI, and have been doing a lot of work in quantum computing since last 4 years. I was working on a product called EntangleX, which is a quantum simulator that we launched a few months ago in US. And why Nepal? Because Nepal has always been on my map, right? Like I am a Nepali, like my mom and dad, they live here. So I come to Nepal a lot. I do work with the government. I have advised them on AI policy over here. So definitely I'm connected to Nepal, and I want Nepal to win. And I believe that among all the many other countries, we should not always be in the mindset, or all of us, like Nepali people, should not be in the mindset that Nepal always has to lose in everything. I think we can win in a few things, right? It's not set in stone that we always have to be a poor country. I think we can be one of the prosperous countries too. And there are many examples in the world. So I think technologies like AI and quantum computing, it can really make our country prosperous. And my dream is to see Nepal as a rich country or a prosperous country during my lifetime. So I'm just doing my part.
But there's also a resource factor involved, right? So there's probably a software aspect and then the hardware aspect, which is resource intensive, I understand. How do you think Nepal is prepared to explore quantum computing?
So Nepal is definitely not prepared to explore the hardware side of the quantum computing. I think we are several years behind, and there is no initiative from government or any private sector whatsoever to actually advance the research in quantum hardware. None of the universities, none of the government bodies, or none of the private companies.
Why so?
We are actually behind even on AI. We have been behind even in the IT revolution. We have been behind on electricity, right? Like Nepal has 83,000 megawatt theoretical max potential of electricity, but we still have load setting. We could actually power entire Asia. And why are we behind? Because of the lack of initiatives from the government. If the government does not change, if we don't have like really smart people running the country, if we don't have like highly educated people that have a view, a world view on where everything is, what are the different trends, which are global trends, what are the technological trends, how can we actually generate a lot of capital in the country. If we don't have people like that who is thinking at that angle, then of course we will be behind on everything. So I'm pretty sure that government has not even thought of quantum computing yet. And even in AI and data centers, government has been really, really behind. And even I experienced this personally, that there was a private company from New York, they wanted to come over here, establish large data centers, but the government does not have blueprint on how they could actually work, you know. So they had to go back. And that, what it means for Nepali people is that Nepali people just lost almost 60 to 70,000 crores worth of capital coming into the country, right? So these are the things why we have been behind on everything. It's a lack of policy and the initiatives.
Now, walk us through how it's going to look like once your company launches. The software aspect is what you're going to work in, right? So how is it going to look like? How is it going to develop in the next 5 years or 10 years? What is your milestone?
Right, so we're trying to develop a simulator that actually works on top of the data center infrastructures. We're targeting the US market in the beginning because US market is actually ready for quantum simulators. And our product EntangleX, what it can do right now is that it can run Monte Carlo simulations, source algorithms. These are like the demand of the industry right now to predict things, like predict the weather, to predict the forex market, crypto market, stock market, things like that. Now there are like an advent of prediction markets in the US, right? Like Calci and Poly markets, things like that. So our services is actually offering the prediction services to the investors of these different categories right now. And the team in Nepal, so we're starting with 20 people in our new office here in Kathmandu. The team in Nepal will be supporting a lot of like administrative work and back office work in the beginning. However, the plan is to grow the team, and then plan is to train them to also be adept with the quantum technology so that they can also participate in the development.
Now let's move on to the hardware aspect, which for now is a challenge for Nepal.
Yes.
What would incorporate a hardware aspect that we cannot attain?
The R&D, you know, so all the quantum hardware companies that exists today, whether they exist in China or United States or European Union, they have been working on it since last 20 years. So it didn't just come out of nowhere, right? Like there has been a really, really like large amount of effort that's been made by the top universities of these countries, and the top companies have been investing hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars in this. So, and we have not done that. I mean, it doesn't mean that we cannot do it. We can start it somewhere, right? So that's why I was like, let me start the first quantum computing company in Nepal, so that it actually, at the very least, it can actually create an education to other people, or it can attract the attention of other people that, hey, like maybe this is something that we need to look into. And if we can allocate some government budget towards just R&D, that would be great, right? If the private sector, there are some companies with a lot of capital in Nepal, right? Like I got to know that there are many, like there's a lot of capital that is just sitting aside and it's not being invested, it's not being used. So also the private sector could actually start thinking about it, because it can benefit both the government and the private sector.
Do you think countries are already in a big race for quantum computing?
Yeah, so you can actually see that there's a big race between US and China, right? There's already, we're hearing about the race of AI between US and China. But the thing that nobody's talking about is that there is already a quantum computing race between US and China, and US is definitely ahead right now, but that doesn't mean that that will be the case forever, because China is advancing very fast in this space.
And on what basis do you say that?
I mean, US has many labs. So US was an early starter or early adopter, right? So, or early mover in this space. And China moved probably like a decade ago, 10 years ago. US moved 2 to 3 decades ago, right? So that's why US has that early mover advantage. But China is actually catching up at a very high speed.
What would you say about India?
India is, I have not heard much about like quantum computing in India, right? Maybe they're starting to work on it now, but India is definitely not in the list when you talk about the top quantum computing players in the world.
The proximity that Nepal has with China, do you think China's advancement in quantum computing would be of advantage to Nepal?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can actually see the quality of life of Nepali people. It has actually dramatically improved because of the Chinese manufacturing capacity, that they can manufacture the daily use items at a very, very cheap price, you know, and we have access to like tissue papers at a very cheap price, toilet papers, like water bottles, electronic gadgets that we use. Had it not been for China, we'd not even maybe have had access to these things, because if these things were always coming from Japan or America or South Korea, it would only be accessible to a select few in the country. But the fact that any restaurant that we go to, it's like it has everything that you need, like anything that a Western restaurant has, or any hospital that you go to, it has everything that a Western hospital has. It's because of Chinese ingenuity and then their creation, their new creation that they did in this manufacturing sector that actually made the cost of items very low. So if China can develop quantum computing faster, I think we'll all have access to it in this reason.
Artificial intelligence is already creating anxiety in the job market. Do you think quantum computing will have similar effect?
So I'm a believer that artificial intelligence, yes, in the short term, there will be a lot of chaos and there will be a lot of reshuffling in the market, in the job market. However, in the long term, AI will also create a lot of new kinds of jobs that didn't exist before. Just like internet and software created new kinds of jobs that didn't exist before, right? With the quantum, definitely AI will accelerate. However, quantum computing actually does create many, many new kinds of jobs that didn't exist before. And already I was looking at, right before this interview, I was looking at what the top consulting firms like McKinsey and BCG, Boston Consulting Group, they have predicted. They are predicting that by 2030s, quantum computing service market alone will be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So what that means is that many jobs will be created, right? And we can already see like companies like us, we're already creating so many jobs, right, because of quantum. So quantum computing space will be creating more and more jobs. However, we cannot say that in the short term, because different countries or different companies, they will have to work on reskilling, upskilling, capacity building for this new kind of technology.
How can somebody watching this conversation take advantage of the future potential? What can they do right now so that they can grab the opportunity that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I would say start learning the basic concepts, like start from the basic. And then there's a huge demand in the world right now for quantum computing consultants, because the top businesses in the world, they're already talking about how can I use quantum computing to accelerate our business process, the operating procedures, or impact the bottom line of the company, right? So there is already a need for this niche of consultants, right? There will be need of system integrators that can actually integrate quantum computing systems onto the existing businesses. So I think there will be an explosion of demand mid-2030s, so in like 10 years, right? So the best way to prepare for 10 years later is today, right? Not 10 years later. So I think there's a ton of resources online by MIT OpenCourseWare, just on YouTube. There are papers by Google and the other Stanford labs that has been released. So I think one should start, if they're interested in this field and would like to contribute to the sector, they should start looking at those white papers, looking at the publications.
You mentioned about harvest now and decrypt later. That's a big risk that we are facing, which raises a question about mitigation as well, perhaps, and adaptation. Do you think we should already start towards the mitigation measures?
Yeah.
And what would it look like if so?
Yeah, I think we should, because HNDL is a very big risk and hackers are already working on it. So hackers are already stealing encrypted data that they know that they cannot decrypt today. It would be impossible for them to decrypt it today. However, once they have their hands on the quantum computers, they can decrypt it and then misuse that data in any way that they would like, right? So that actually brings us to the conversation of post-quantum cryptography, right? So there has been some concepts and some protocols that has already been introduced in post-quantum cryptography. One is the lattice-based method, which actually uses like really complex geometric lattices that is very, very hard even for classical computers of today, but also for quantum computers to break. The other one is the hash function-based cryptography, which is actually hard for quantum computers and the classical computers to break. So there already has been some protocols proposed by the NIST, and there is a lot of work that is already going on. There are some companies that are already adapting to it, and then they are moving their databases to post-quantum cryptography. However, it's very difficult to do because the cryptographic principles of today that is in place in different servers or data centers, it's actually bolted onto not just software but also hardware, right? So it's very difficult for them to like take everything out and then migrate everything to the post-quantum cryptography measures. However, efforts behind this has already been started by the top tech companies in the world.
And what can Nepal government already start doing?
They need to start looking into these cryptographies, right? Like first thing that Nepal government would like to do, which I have already advised during the past government, I would like to advise the same thing to the current government, that we don't have data protection privacy policy for our citizens whatsoever. So anybody today, whether they're a private sector or they're a hacker or any bad actor, can actually take our data and misuse it in any way that they want. There is no policy or rules about it whatsoever. So they need to work on that first. Then they need to definitely work on securing the data that even they have, right? And we actually, I think most of the Nepali people know that their data is already in the hands of like these private companies that actually take your data in the form of KYC. Like all of these wallet companies have like really critical data that is yours, and there is no encryption or anything. They know your license, maybe not the license number, but your citizenship number,
of course,
your date of birth, and all of these should be the private data, right? And should be encrypted. And there is a way for companies to take it and then not be able to see it. Just let the computer see it, verify things, and then like again close it so that no human working in that company can see it. However, these kinds of policies and rules have not been applied in Nepal. So all of the data is like out in the public open, you know. So first, they definitely need to work on the data protection and privacy policy for the citizens. And next, they need to start looking at the cryptography. I think most of the Nepal government encryption is the RSA and ECC. They need to start looking at the post-quantum cryptography, because even the organizations and corporations of the world have started looking at it. So why not the government should look at it? So Nepal government should definitely look at post-quantum cryptography.
You mentioned about how it's going to look like by mid-2030s. What would be your 3 predictions in the sector?
So I think by mid-2030, we'll actually start having faster drug discovery and personalized drugs, right? So maybe the paracetamol that you take might be very, very different than the paracetamol that I take, right? There might be a drug that is specialized and personalized for Sarah. You know? So the cost of doing those things will actually become so cheap, and almost the cost of what we're paying for the common drugs today. It'll be like that. So medicine will advance to next level. I think gene editing, we can select what our babies look like, right? You can like literally go to an interface, say, I want green eyes, I want this height, I want this kind of physique, all of that. And because all of these are just the functions of the DNA, and the gene can be edited. logistics industry will actually have whatever we want much faster, and the cost of logistics will go almost zero, right? For mathematicians, or that actually applies to everybody, right? Like, they will be able to find newer formulas and newer derivations much faster. We will get the technologies at much cheaper price, at near zero price, that even for the technologies that we have been paying a lot. Transport will change, right? We'll actually have much faster transport. Maybe not everything that I said will come in by mid 2030s, because that will be kind of like an era where what we're seeing for AI right now, that's what we'll see for quantum computers at that time. But definitely by mid 2040s, we'll actually start seeing the technologies that we'd never thought would exist before. Kind of like our grandma, when she was a teenager, would never thought that we'd have iPhones and iPads in our hand, right? So the technologies that we have not even thought of will exist 20 years later.
Mm-hmm. And by 2030, how much of a scalable achievement do you think Nepal will make?
Nepal can definitely, or our company, Quantum Superintelligence, can actually definitely make some strides in the software sector. Our whole focus is only in the software. We're not even diving. But maybe in next 10 years, the government will be educated about it, and some private sectors that have the large amounts of capital might start the R&D. So we'll be at the starting phase.
Of R&D,
yeah.
That is. Ujjwal Roy, thank you so much for your time and your insight.
Thank you.
Well, quantum computing may still sound like something from the distant future, but the race to build it is already underway. The question now is not simply who will build the most powerful quantum computer, but who will be ready when this technology becomes truly useful. And for countries like Nepal, perhaps the biggest question is whether we can prepare early enough to be part of that future, rather than simply watch it unfold. Thanks for staying with us. As always, until next time.
चारैतिर हरियाली नै हरियालीको बीचमा चराचुरुङ्गीहरू बात मार्दै गरेका, हावाले संगीत भर्दै गरेको अनि माटोले आत्मीयता देखाएको यो पावन भूमि हो दक्षिणकाली। काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाबाट 18 किलोमिटरको दूरीमा रहेको दक्षिणकाली हिन्दू अनि बौद्ध धर्मावलम्बीका लागि विशेष ठाउँ हो। हिन्दू धर्मका प्रख्यात गुरु गोरखनाथ र बौद्ध धर्मका प्रख्यात गुरु रिम्पोछे अर्थात् पद्म सम्भवले ध्यान गरेको र सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको यो विशेष भूमि हो। यो यही भूमि हो जहाँ माता दक्षिणकाली वास गर्नुहुन्छ। त्यसैले त यहाँको हावा र माटोले आकर्षित गर्छ, मधुरता दिन्छ। यो ठाउँमा पाइला टेक्नुले मात्र पनि ऊर्जा प्रदान गर्छ, जीवन सफल भएको आभास हुन्छ। कमलको फूलबाट अलौकिक रूपमा जन्म भएको मानिएका पद्म सम्भव, जसलाई तिब्बती भाषामा गुरु रिम्पोछे भनिन्छ, उनी गुरुले ध्यान गरेर सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको ठाउँ फर्पिङ दक्षिणकालीमै छ। भनिन्छ बुद्ध धर्मका ज्ञाता पद्म सम्भव तिब्बतमा बुद्ध धर्मको जग बसाल्न जाँदै गर्दा धेरै वर्ष नेपालको फर्पिङमा बस्नुभयो। यो असुरा गुफा हो। गुरु पद्म सम्भवले ध्यान र साधना गरी सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको ठाउँ। फर्पिङ बजारबाट दायाँ लागि केही उकालो हिँडेपछि गुफा पुग्ने भर्याङ देख्न सकिन्छ। अनगिन्ती सिँढीहरू चढेर गुफा पुगेपछि छुट्टै आनन्द आउँछ। विशाल चट्टानभित्र सानो कोठा छ जहाँ पद्म सम्भवको मूर्ति राखिएको छ र दीप प्रज्वलन गरिएको छ। अनि छेवैमा एक लामा मन्त्र उच्चारण गरी ध्यानमा लीन हुनुहुन्छ। आन्तरिक पर्यटकहरू नदेखिएको यो ठाउँमा विदेशी पर्यटकहरू पनि आउँदा रहेछन्। विशेष गरी चीन, ताइवान, मंगोलिया र भुटान लगायतका देशबाट यहाँ भ्रमणका लागि आउने गर्दछन्। यो बौद्ध मार्गीको एक पवित्र तीर्थस्थल हो जहाँको भ्रमण बिना तीर्थाटन अधुरो हुने गर्दछ। यही शिलामा हातका ठ्याक्कै 5 औंलाको डाम छ। स्थानीयका अनुसार यो हातको डाम गुरु पद्म सम्भवका शिष्यको हो। भूलवश हातको डाम रहन गएपछि ती शिष्य पश्चातापमा गएको भनाइ छ। यसै गरी अर्को एउटा भनाइ पनि प्रख्यात छ जसले यो हातको डाम गुरु पद्म सम्भवकै भएको बताउँछ। त्यसैले त यहाँ आउने पर्यटकहरू यहाँ आफ्नो हात राखेर पद्म सम्भवसँग ऊर्जा र आशीर्वाद माग्छन्। इतिहासमा पद्म सम्भवलाई अलौकिक शक्ति मानिन्छ जसले नकारात्मक ऊर्जा सजिलै परास्त गरी न्याय र शान्ति प्रदान गर्ने विश्वास गरिन्छ। यही गुफासँगै गुरु गोरखनाथको पाइला पनि रहेको छ। गुरु पद्म सम्भव ध्यान र साधनाका लागि यता आउनु भएको थाहा पाएर हिन्दू धर्मका प्रख्यात गुरु गोरखनाथ पनि यो ठाउँ केही वर्ष बसी ध्यान गरेर जानु भएको हो भन्ने भनाइ छ। गुफाका सिँढीहरू झर्दै गर्दा शिलामा स्वयं उत्पन्न भएको मानिएको गणेश र सरस्वतीको मूर्ति पनि छ। एउटा सानो कुण्ड अनि त्यसमाथि कमलको फूल, यस्तै स्वरूप बनाएर पद्म सम्भवको गजबको ठूलो मूर्ति राखिएको छ। विभिन्न भाव भङ्गिमामा रहेको पद्मसम्भवको प्रतिमा निकै नै सजीव देखिन्छ। यहाँ बसेर मजाले ध्यान गर्न सकिन्छ। यो ठाउँ अलौकिक शक्तिले भरिएको आभास हुन्छ। जो कोहीको अस्थिर मन पनि यहाँ शान्त बन्न सक्छ। यो असुरा गुफा र फर्पिङमै रहेको याङ्लेश्वर गुफा गुरु पद्मसम्भवले आवत जावतका लागि प्रयोग गर्न गरिएको पनि स्थानीय विश्वास छ। यहाँ पनि पद्मसम्भवको सानो मूर्ति राखिएको छ र दीप प्रज्वलित गरिएको छ। यहाँ रहेको चट्टानको बीचमा टाउको अड्याउन मिल्ने ठाउँ छ, जहाँ टाउको राखेमा आनन्द प्राप्ति हुने स्थानीयको विश्वास छ। यो यही परिसर हो जहाँ शेष नारायणको मन्दिर छ। यो उपत्यकाको 4 नारायण मध्ये एक हो। विशंखु नारायण, इचंगु नारायण, चांगु नारायण र शेष नारायण काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाका 4 प्रमुख नारायण मन्दिरहरू हुन्। यही मन्दिरको ठिक माथि चट्टानमा विभिन्न आकृतिहरू देख्न पाइन्छ, जसलाई भक्तजनहरू विभिन्न रूप मानेर श्रद्धा गर्छन्। कामधेनु गाईको थुन, गणेश अनि शेषनागको आकृतिका रूपमा देखिने यी स्वरूपहरूमाथि भक्तजनहरूको गहिरो विश्वास छ। यसै मन्दिर प्रवेश स्थलमा एउटा सानो कुण्ड पनि छ, जहाँ ससानादेखि ठुल्ठुला असला र रङ्गी बिरङ्गी माछाहरू छन्। यहाँ केही जोडी कछुवा पनि छन्। यस कुण्डमा बौद्ध मार्गीहरूले आफ्ना मनोकांक्षा पूरा भएको खुसियालीमा रङ्गी बिरङ्गी माछाहरू छोड्ने गर्दछन्। अनि यिनै माछाहरू हेर्न यहाँ ससाना बालबालिकादेखि ठूलासम्म आउने गर्दछन्। यहाँ आनन्दको अनुभव गर्दै ध्यानमा लीन हुनेहरूको पनि कमी छैन। यहाँको अर्को विशेष भनेको वज्रयोगिनी मन्दिर हो। वज्रयोगिनी एक तान्त्रिक देवी हुनुहुन्छ। वज्रयाना र महायानामा वज्रयोगिनीको स्थान उच्च छ। समृद्ध र सुखी जीवनयापनको मनोकामना राख्दै भक्तजनहरू यहाँ आउने गर्दछन्। साथै ज्ञान प्राप्तिका लागि यस ठाउँको भ्रमण गर्नेहरू पनि धेरै छन्। आशाका दीपहरू बलिरहेका, खुशीका स्वरहरू गुन्जिरहेका यी ठाउँहरू साँच्चै विशिष्ट छन्। यसै विशिष्टताको अर्को नाम हो दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर। यो मन्दिरमा विभिन्न मनोकामना राखेर दर्शन गर्न आउनेहरूको भिड नै लाग्ने गर्दछ। यहाँ विशेष गरी शनिबार, मंगलबार र बिहीबार भिड लाग्ने गर्दछ। दशैंमा यहाँ विशेष पूजा हुने गर्दछ। यहाँ छिमेकी मुलुक भारतबाट पनि दर्शनार्थीहरू आउने गर्छन्। यहाँ आउने भक्तजनका लागि पनि खाजा, नास्ता अनि पूजा सामग्रीका पसलहरू राखिएका छन्। यही मन्दिरको ठिक माथि माताको मन्दिर छ, जुन दक्षिणकालीको माताको हो भनिन्छ।
दक्षिणकाली नगरपालिका आर्थिक रूपमा अलि विपन्न हो, तर सांस्कृतिक ऐतिहासिक थलोको रूपमा चाहिँ दक्षिणकाली नगरपालिका धनी नगरपालिकाको रूपमा पर्छ। उदाहरणको लागि माता दक्षिणकालीको मन्दिर पुर्खौँदेखि चाहिँ दक्षिणकाली माताको आशीर्वाद लिने भक्तजनहरूको प्रशस्त मात्रामा चाहिँ आगमन पाइन्छ। प्राचीन दक्षिणकाली, जहाँ माता दक्षिणकाली पहिला त्यहाँ उहाँको वासस्थान, पछि चाहिँ किम्वदन्ती अनुसार पछि तल सरेको भन्ने खालको जुन छ, त्यो मन्दिर पनि एकदम अत्यन्त सुन्दर बनिसकेको छ। र असुरा गुफाबाट माथितिर जाँदाखेरि सिँढी माथिसम्मै जोडिएको छ र त्यहाँ पानीको केही व्यवस्था पनि छ, सबै कुरा व्यवस्था छ र त्यहाँ पनि नहेरी नहुने ठाउँको रूपमा छ। विदेशी पर्यटकहरू अहिले पनि हालसाल पनि आइराख्नु भएको, सधैँभरि आउने बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको पवित्र भूमि, गुरु रुम्बुचेले तपस्या सिद्धि गरेको थलो असुरा गुफादेखि लिएर चाहिँ पवित्र यहाँ चाहिँ बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको मठ मन्दिर भएको कारणले यहाँ हिन्दू मात्र नभइकन बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको पनि प्रशस्त यहाँ सम्भावना छ, आइराख्नु भएको छ। अझ थपिएर आउनको लागि पनि यहाँ चाहिँ उहाँहरूलाई बसोबासको लागि बुद्ध मार्गीहरूले वासस्थानको पनि राम्रो व्यवस्था मिलाइराखेको छ। र यहाँ आइसकेपछि असुरा गुफा र धेरै यस्ता चाहिँ मठ मन्दिरहरू, बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको मठ मन्दिरहरू भएको ठाउँ भएको कारणले यहाँहरूको टेलिभिजन मार्फत पनि यो कुरालाई उजागर गरिदिन सक्यो भने पर्यटकहरू अवश्य पनि कहाँ घुमौँ, कहाँ जाँदा राम्रो हुन्छ भन्ने अन्यल भइराखेको बेलामा दक्षिणकाली एउटा चाहिँ पर्यटकको लागि गन्तव्य स्थल हो भन्ने कुरा अलिकति हामी कार्यक्रम मार्फत पनि दिन सक्यौँ भने त्यो बढ्छ।
खासमा दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर यहाँ भन्दा फरक ठाउँमा थियो। पर्पिङको माथि जंगलमा रहेको दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर जानेहरू हराउन थालेपछि त्यसबेलाका राजा प्रताप मल्ललाई दक्षिणकाली माताले आफूलाई हाल रहेको ठाउँमा सारिदिनु भन्ने सपनामा देखाएपछि हालको ठाउँमा मन्दिर बनाइ सारिएको भन्ने कथन छ।
राजा प्रताप मल्लको राज्यकाल भन्दा पनि धेरै पहिला त्यस अवस्थाको मूर्ति फर्पिङ सहर शिखरको घना जङ्गलमा थियो। त्यहाँ मान्छेहरू जान डराउने र हराउने के, मान्छे जस्तै 100 जना गयो कि 1 जना हराउने के। त्यो भएपछि राजा प्रताप मल्ललाई साक्षात् कि दक्षिणकाली देवी सपनामा प्रकट भएर मलाई यो अप्रकाशित मूर्ति थियो त्यतिखेर, मलाई प्रकाशित मूर्तिमा प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गरेर दुई नदीको सङ्गम चौक जस्तै पूर्णावती गङ्गा र उदारवती गङ्गाको बिचमा मलाई विराजमान गर र त्यस अवस्थामा प्रताप मल्लको पालोमा महामारीको भय थियो के, त्यो भय पनि निवारण हुन्छ भनेर अनि प्रताप मल्लले दक्षिणकालीको मूर्ति स्थापना गराएको थियो। अब मूर्ति स्थापना गराउँदा पहिला मूर्ति बनाउँदाखेरि त्यो प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गर्दाखेरि त्यस मूर्तिमा प्राण प्रतिष्ठा भएन। त्यो मूर्ति अहिले हनुमान ढोकामा छ। अनि त्यसपछि दोस्रो फेरि प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गरेर गुरु लमकर्ण भट्टले विधिका साथ होइन, अब जस्तै नरबली सर्प सब बलि सहित प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गरेर यहाँ विराजमान गराएको हो। जस्तै यहाँ नजिकै मुसान पनि छ। अनि देवीको दायाँबाट क्रमशः गणेश, भैरव, ब्रह्मायनी, महेश्वरी, कुमारी, वैष्णवी, बाराई, इन्द्रायणी, चामुण्डा बिचमा दक्षिणकालीमा विराजमान हुनुहुन्छ। यहाँ प्रत्येक चाहिँ अब भिड हुने चाहिँ शनिबार, मङ्गलबार, बिहिबार हो। अब दसैँमा त भन्नै परेन। अनि यहाँ विशेष पूजा चाहिँ वर्षको 2 चोटि हुन्छ, महापूजा। वैशाख बढी 13 रोज र अनि भाद्र कृष्ण अष्टमीमा हुने गर्दछ। अब कोही मान्छेको भाकल पुरा भएर आउँछन्, कोही मेरो भाकल पुरा होस् भनेर आउँछन् हैन। यहाँ अब देश विदेश अथवा पूर्व मेचीदेखि पश्चिम महाकालीसम्मको मान्छेहरू आउँछन्। अहिले त यातायातको सुविधा झन् बढी भएको कारण पहिलाभन्दा यहाँ धेरै अब यात्रुहरूको चाप पनि बढी छ। अब दक्षिणकाली आमाले सबैको इच्छा, मनको इच्छा पुरा गरेकोले नै यहाँ मान्छेहरू आउने गर्दछ। एउटा आस्था त हो हाम्रो हैन।
यहाँको अर्को धार्मिक तथा ऐतिहासिक रूपमा प्रख्यात ठाउँ हो कटुवाल दह। झोलुङ्गे पुलबाट यो दह पुग्न सकिन्छ। दह भनिए पनि यो ठाउँ खोला बनेको छ। सम्भवतः यो ठाउँ कुनै समयमा दह भएको र कालान्तरमा खोलामा परिणत भएको हुन सक्छ। यहाँ सङ्कटाको सानो मन्दिर पनि छ। यो दहको जल रातो मच्छिन्द्रनाथको जात्रा सुरुवात गर्न अनिवार्य छ। किंवदन्ती अनुसार भारतको आसामबाट रातो मच्छिन्द्रनाथलाई नेपाल ल्याएपछि सुरुमा यही बिसाएर जल चढाइएको थियो। गर्मीमा शीतलता दिने यो ठाउँ आनन्ददायी छ। यहाँको चिसो हावाले मन शान्त पार्नुका साथै ऊर्जा पनि प्रदान गर्छ। यो गोपालेश्वर मन्दिर हो। यहाँ महादेवको ठूलो शिला रहेको छ। 3 तल्ले प्यागोडा शैलीमा निर्माण भएको यो मन्दिर गोपाल वंशमा निर्माण भएको इतिहासमा उल्लेख छ। यसै मन्दिरमा कृष्णले आफ्नो भान्जाको व्रतबन्ध गरेको पनि विश्वास गरिन्छ। यहाँ रहेको चम्पादेवी डाँडा र भस्मासुर डाँडा पदयात्राका लागि एक आकर्षक गन्तव्य हो। चम्पादेवी काठमाडौँ उपत्यका वरिपरि रहेका अग्ला डाँडाहरूमध्ये तेस्रो अग्लो डाँडा हो। यो घना जंगलले घेरिएको छ र यहाँबाट सुन्दर हिम श्रृङ्खलाहरू देख्न सकिन्छ। प्रकृतिको नजिकमा रही आनन्द लिनका लागि दक्षिणकाली एक उत्कृष्ट गन्तव्य हो। त्यसैले त यहाँ रहेका करिब 200 वटा गुम्बा लगायतमा अध्यात्म तथा ध्यान केन्द्रहरू खोलिएका छन्, जहाँ राष्ट्रिय तथा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय व्यक्तित्वहरू ध्यानका लागि आउने गर्छन्।
हाम्रो यहाँ लोकल ग्राहकदेखि बाहिरी टुरिस्टहरू, इन्टरनेसनल ग्राहकदेखि सबैजना आउनुहुन्छ। यहाँ चाहिँ नजिक चाहिँ दक्षिणकाली परेको हुनाले र अर्को हाम्रो चाहिँ बुद्धिस्टको चाहिँ पनि ठुलो तीर्थस्थल भएको भएर दुवै सबैजना आउनुहुन्छ। कोही चाहिँ 1-2 दिन पनि बस्छन्, कोही 1 दिन मात्र शुक्रबार प्राय बस्नु भएर शनिबार दर्शन गरेर जानेहरू पनि हुन्छन् भनेदेखि कोही चाहिँ 6-7 दिन बस्ने, कोही 10-15 दिन बस्नेहरू पनि हुन्छन्।
यहाँ घुम्न आउने पर्यटकका लागि खाजा, खाना तथा बास बस्न होमस्टे तथा होटलहरू पनि रहेका छन्। ठुलठुला रिजोर्टदेखि ससाना खाजा पसलहरू रहेकाले यो ठाउँ पर्यटकका लागि सहज छ।
मेरो लगभग 1 वर्ष जति भयो। सधैँ आइन्छ। अब यसो कहिलेकाहीँ यताउता काम पर्यो भने बाहिर हिँडिन्छ, नत्र त प्राय यहीँ हो सधैँ। यहाँ अब शनिबार र पब्लिक होलिडेमा अलिअलि हो, नत्र अरू बार यस्तै नर्मल 500-700 200-400 जे होस् सर्भाइभ हुनलाई भइरहेछ, टाइम पास भइरहेछ। आफ्नै घर नजिक पनि भयो, आफ्नै ठाउँमा केही गरेर खान पनि पाइयो नि त।
दक्षिणकाली नास्पाती र लप्सीका लागि विशेष प्रख्यात छ। दक्षिणकालीको नासपाती र लप्सी भन्ने बित्तिकै जो कोहीको पनि मुख रसाउँछ। यहाँका खेत बारीहरूमा नासपाती र लप्सीका रुखहरूले घर बनाएका छन्। एक समान ठडिएका यी रुखहरूमा रहरलाग्दो पाराले नासपाती फलिरहेका छन् अनि लप्सी पनि। यी लप्सीको यहाँ मिठो क्यान्डी बन्ने गर्छ। केही अमिलो अनि केही गुलियो हुने यी क्यान्डीले धेरैको मुख मिठो बनाएको छ।
लौसी हामीले बोटमै किन्छौँ, बोटै लिएर खेताल लगाएर उ गर्छौँ होइन। अरू यही सामान बनाउने हो। पहिला लौसी झार्ने सिजनमा यस्तो हुन्छ, हामीले कात्तिकको लास्टदेखि सुरु गर्छौँ। कात्तिकको लास्टदेखि पुससम्म। त्योभन्दा अगाडि अलिकति गुदीभरि आउँदैन होइन। त्यो बेला सुरु गरेपछि तल उसिनी ताख्ने काम नै भइरहेको हुन्छ, यहाँ काम नै भइरहेको हुन्छ। दार्जिलिङ पनि जान्छ अहिले चाहिँ प्राय सर्लाहीतिर, अनि पोखरा बढी, अनि काठमाडौँ बढी। काठमाडौँ अनि मेरो यही लोकल बजारमा नि रहेछ। म आफै किन्छु नासपातीहरू नि, अनि प्राय अलिक ठुला छानेर काठमाडौँ नै बेच्छौँ हामी। काठमाडौँमा अलिक ठुला बेच्छ, अनि तराईतिर इन्डियातिर चाहिँ अलिक ठिक यत्र साइजको पठाउँछौँ। हामी 6 जना छौँ। पहिला त 8-9 जनै छौँ, बच्चाहरू छोरीहरू व्यवहार गयो। अहिले राम्रै छ।
यहाँ धान रोप्दै गरेका किसानहरू भेटिन्छन्, जिम्बु लाउँदै गरेका किसानहरू पनि भेटिन्छन्। जहाँ हेरे पनि हरियाली देखिने यो ठाउँ धार्मिक, ऐतिहासिक र प्राकृतिक सम्पदाले भरिपूर्ण छ। दक्षिणकाली काठमाडौँको नजिकमा रहेको एक आकर्षक पर्यटकीय गन्तव्य हो। प्रकृतिसँग आलिङ्गनका लागि र आध्यात्मिक शान्तिको खोजीका लागि यो ठाउँ एक उपयुक्त गन्तव्य हो। व्यस्त जीवनशैली र कोलाहलबाट मनको शान्ति प्राप्तिका लागि ध्यान तथा साधनामा लीन हुन यो ठाउँ उत्कृष्ट छ।
This is The World This Week, your weekly roundup of the latest international events and updates. I am Bhavana Casey, and in this edition, we bring you the week's top headlines from escalating geopolitical tensions, major diplomatic developments, climate concerns, breakthroughs in science and technology, cultural celebrations, and inspiring stories of human feat and resilience. We have all that you need. Tensions between Iran and the United States are escalating, with the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz at the center of growing regional crisis.
Tensions between Iran and the United States are escalating, with the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz at the center of a growing regional crisis. Iran has warned that the strait will remain closed until its conditions are met, while the United States has threatened an indefinite naval blockade. The standoff has raised concerns over the movement of oil and other energy supplies through one of the world's most important shipping routes. Gulf countries are bearing the impact of the crisis, with Kuwait facing disruptions to its oil sector and repeated attacks on energy infrastructure. Al-Sabah says the current crisis is placing unprecedented pressure on Kuwait's oil industry, although the scale of destructions remain far below that of the 1990 Iraqi invasion.
Without a doubt, this is the toughest and biggest crisis that we have faced in the oil sector in Kuwait since the 1990 invasion by Iraq. Obviously, 1990, the level of destruction was magnitudes higher than where we are now. However, this crisis has presented a new challenge.
The disruption has also raised fears over global energy supplies, as Gulf producers rely heavily on the Strait of Hormuz to transport crude oil and other petroleum products to international markets. With no immediate resolution in sight, uncertainty over the future of the Strait of Hormuz continues to weigh on both regional security and global energy markets.
And while tensions remain high in the region, efforts to end the conflict in Gaza have also hit another roadblock as Israel rejected a US-backed 15-point plan.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected US President Donald Trump's 15-point plan for Gaza, stating that no military pullout will happen until Hamas is genuinely disarmed. Trump's Board of Peace said last month that it had reached an agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas and other armed groups in Gaza. But Hamas said handing over its heavy weapons was contingent on Israel ending all forms of aggression and withdrawing its forces from Gaza. Israel, meanwhile, has continued to carry out strikes on Gaza since agreeing to an initial ceasefire in the territory last October. Netanyahu, at a cabinet meeting on Sunday, said Israel rejected the 15-point document.
ישראל שוללת את מספר 15 הנקודות. צה"ל לא יבצע נסיגה כלשהי עד פירוק החמאס מנשקו. בנוסף, צה"ל ימשיך לסכל את האיומים נגד כוחותינו ואזרחינו.
Trump last month announced a monumental step toward lasting peace and security after Hamas said it had accepted a disarmament plan for Gaza. It signals another blow for Trump's Gaza peace plan, which was announced in September last year. The plan included the creation of the Board of Peace to oversee the agreement's implementation, as well as the disarmament of Hamas, withdrawal of Israeli troops, and reconstruction of Gaza.
From conflict in the Middle East to a devastating natural disaster in South America, Colombia is mourning after a powerful earthquake killed more than 200 people, while rescue teams are racing against time to find survivors trapped beneath the rubble.
A powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake has killed more than 200 people in western Colombia, leaving thousands injured and hundreds missing. The earthquake, the strongest to hit the country in a century, caused widespread destruction across several cities, with homes, roads, and critical infrastructure damaged or destroyed. Rescue teams are racing against time to reach people trapped beneath collapsed buildings using search dogs, heavy machinery, and specialized equipment to clear the rubble. Hospitals in some of the worst-hit areas are under severe pressure as they treat a large number of injured people and displaced residents. Authorities have declared a state of emergency and launched a major rescue and relief operation, while international assistance is being deployed to support affected communities. Rescue crews, meanwhile, continue to work around the clock as hopes of finding survivors remain.
Europe is battling another spell of extreme heat, with temperatures soaring across several countries, wildfires spreading in parts of the continent, and unusually warm seas adding to concerns over the region's changing climate.
Europe is battling another severe heat wave, with soaring temperatures and prolonged dry conditions fueling wildfires across parts of the continent. Western Europe has recorded its hottest ever June and July, while the United Kingdom is bracing for its fifth heat wave of the year, putting further pressure on water supplies and increasing drought risks. The extreme heat comes as the world's oceans recorded their hottest ever July, with average sea surface temperatures reaching 20.96 degrees Celsius, according to the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service. July was also the joint second warmest month globally on record, at 1.47 degrees Celsius above the estimated pre-industrial average. Climate scientists say the combination of rising temperatures, dry conditions, and unusually warm seas is intensifying concerns over the accelerating impacts of climate change. Several European countries are also facing heightened wildfire risks, with firefighters battling blazes amid hot, dry, and windy conditions. The prolonged heat is also putting pressure on agriculture, energy demand, and public health, with authorities urging people to take precautions. Forecasters warn that persistent heat and dry conditions could further worsen water shortages and increase the risk of drought across vulnerable parts of Europe.
From the operating theatre to artificial intelligence, robotic technology is transforming how the surgeons work as UK hospitals move towards the wider use of advanced robotic-assisted surgery. A London hospital is demonstrating the growing role of robotic-assisted surgery as medical professionals prepare for wider adoption of advanced systems, including the new Da Vinci 5 robotic surgical platform. Surgeon Sasa Stamenikovic told visiting doctors that younger surgeons often adapt more quickly to robotic procedures with skills developed through activities such as gaming and music, potentially helping shape the surgeons of the future. He said robotic training is becoming an increasingly important part of modern surgical practice.
There is a difference between standard keyhole surgery and robotic surgery. You have two hands which you're operating with bimanually always. And that's how the original open surgery used to be. Keyhole surgery kind of compromised that a bit, and robotic surgery has brought you back to what surgeons wanted to do, which was to have an art form, able to create something with their hands, and not to have the compromise of stiff and difficult instrumentation.
The UK government has set a target for robotic assistants to be used in 9 out of 10 keyhole surgeries in England by 2035 as part of efforts to improve surgical outcomes and expand access to advanced medical technology. Ali Ansaripur, a senior cardiothoracic trainee completing a robotic fellowship, said robotic surgery could provide major benefits for patients, including shorter hospital stays, reduced pain and faster recovery times, with many patients able to return home within 1 or 2 days.
The benefits are shorter length of stay, less pain for the patient going home day 1, day 2, making sure they're comfortable, less pain, less need for analgesia after the operation, and this is clear. So if you get to see the patient later today, you will see him walking around the ward, and that is a real example of what happens to every single patient we treat today.
76-year-old Ian MacLeod became the first patient in Britain to undergo lung cancer surgery using the new Da Vinci 5 robotic system. He said he experienced a quick recovery with only a small wound on his back from the surgical drain after the procedure.
That was extraordinary. In fact, after the operation, I found out quite quickly that I only had 1 stitch in a small wound on my back, and that was where the drain was. As far as walking, I think after I went back to the ward, which was only maybe half an hour after the surgery, I was walking.
The case marks a significant milestone in UK's adoption of robotic technology as hospitals continue expanding advanced surgical techniques. From cutting-edge technology in modern operating rooms, we now turn thousands of years back in time as archaeologists in Italy uncover a remarkable Roman-era shipwreck off the coast of Sicily. A Roman-era shipwreck dating back to between the 2nd and 1st centuries BC has been discovered off the coast of Sicily near Mazzaro del Vallo. Italy's Carabinieri police released footage showing hundreds of ancient amphorae, mainly of the Dress L1A type, scattered across the seabed along with 2 laid anchor stocks. The wreck lies at the depth of around 46 meters and is believed to offer valuable clues about ancient maritime trade in the Mediterranean. Officials said the site was identified during an underwater survey following a report from a private citizen. Archaeologists are now documenting the remains and working to protect the site from looting and damage. From the depth of the ocean to the skies above Europe, a rare total solar eclipse turned day into darkness, captivating thousands of sky watchers eager to witness one of nature's most spectacular phenomena.
A rare total solar eclipse swept across parts of Europe, briefly turning day into darkness and drawing thousands of sky watchers to viewing sites. The eclipse was visible in totality across parts of Russia, Iceland, and Europe, while a partial eclipse could be seen across wider parts of Europe, Canada, the northern United States, and northwest Africa. In the UK, more than 90% of the sun was covered by the moon, including above the historic Stonehenge site. Special viewing glasses were in high demand as people gathered to watch the rare celestial event, with observers in Spain also witnessing the moon pass across the sun and transform the daylight into an unusual twilight. The event created a dramatic drop in daylight and temperatures in the areas along the eclipse path as the moon briefly blocked the sunlight. Astronomers and researchers also used the eclipse to observe the sun's outer atmosphere, while scientists urged the public to use certified eye protection while viewing the event. The eclipse became a major attraction for tourists and astronomy enthusiasts, with viewing events organized at several locations across Europe.
And while millions look to the skies, a different kind of spectacle is taking over the streets of China, where Chongqing's futuristic landscape is becoming a viral tourism attraction. Neon-lit streets in Chongqing of China have become a growing attraction for tourists looking to recreate the city's popular cyberpunk motorcycle videos. As night falls, the sound of motorcycle engines fills the streets while dozens of visitors take turns posing on brightly polished motorbikes for personalized videos and photographs. Teams of vendors offer filming services to tourists, providing motorcycles, protective gear, and camera crews to produce short videos against Chongqing's dense urban skyline and colorful neon lights. The trend has been fueled by viral footage of motorcycles waving through the city's elevated roads and illuminated streets, giving Chongqing a distinctive cyberpunk-style image on social media. Among the visitors was 30-year-old Liu Changqing, who traveled from Shanghai specifically to take part in the experience. Liu shared the motorcycle suit was his top priority after arriving in Chongqing, even as he wore a heavy motorcycle jacket in the city's hot and humid weather. The growing demand has created a new tourism-related business for local vendors who are capitalizing on the city's online popularity by offering tourists a chance to become part of the viral motorcycle scenes. A familiar symbol of the Paris Olympics is once again lighting up the French capital as the iconic Olympic cauldron returns to the skies above the Tuileries Gardens. The Olympic cauldron balloon has been reinstalled in Tuileries Garden in Paris, giving visitors another opportunity to see the landmark structure that became one of the most recognizable symbols of the Olympic Games. The installation, designed by Aerophil, will rise into the Paris sky every evening from 21 June until 14 September if weather conditions permit. The return of the cauldron has drawn attention from residents and tourists who previously saw the spectacle only through television coverage. They say the experience of seeing the structure in person creates a stronger emotional impact. The installation's return to the Tuileries Gardens allows the public to experience a piece of the Olympic celebrations beyond the Games period, as Paris continues to showcase one of the most memorable recent symbols. Officials said the attraction is expected to remain a major draw for visitors throughout the summer, offering a visual reminder of the city's role as the host of the international sporting event. The cauldron will continue its evening flights until September, subject to weather and safety conditions. For adventure seekers, an extreme canyon route is testing strength, skill, and endurance in Turkey, combining near vertical rock descents, rushing waters, and challenging climbs.
An extreme adventure route at Gayvar Cliff is attracting thriller seeker with a challenging combination of steep rock descents, canyon crossings, and waterfalls. The route begins at the top of the cliff, where participants descend near vertical rock faces using ropes. The technically demanding sections require experience, balance, and concentration, with some stretches offering little room for secure footing. After reaching the bottom, adventurers continue through a narrow canyon, navigating large rocks and cold water before reaching scenic areas deeper in the valley. The final stage involves climbing through water, completing a demanding circuit that tests participants' strength, endurance, and ability to cope with difficult terrain. Participants describe the route as physically exhausting and highly technical, warning that it should not be attempted without proper proper training and experience. They said the descent requires complete focus, while another described the route as extremely difficult because of the steep climbs and freezing water. Another participant said the combination of physical effort, depth, and adrenaline makes the experience worthwhile despite pushing the limits of endurance.
From human endurance to the raw power of nature, Hawaii's Kilauea volcano has erupted once again, sending fresh fountains of lava in another dramatic display from one of the world's most active volcanoes.
Hawaii's Kilauea volcano has erupted again, sending fresh fountains of lava into the air in another dramatic display of volcanic activity. The latest eruption began on August 12th within Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and continued for several hours. The U.S. Geological Survey said the eruption produced powerful bursts of lava from the crater, marking another episode of Kilauea's ongoing activity. The volcano has been one of the world's most active for decades, with eruptions regularly reshaping the surrounding landscapes. Authorities are continuing to monitor volcanic activity, gas emissions, and conditions around the summit area, while visitors are being advised to follow safety guidance. The latest eruption has once again drawn attention to the powerful geological forces shaping Hawaii's volcanic landscape.
Colombo's skies turned into a colorful spectacle as thousands of kite flyers from Sri Lanka and around the world gathered for the country's International Kite Festival. Hundreds of colorful kites filled the skies over Colombo as Sri Lanka hosted its International Kite Festival, bringing together more than 1,500 local kite flyers and 80 international enthusiasts from 30 countries. The festival transformed the city's skyline into a display of colorful and creatively designed kites, attracting participants and spectators from across Sri Lanka and abroad. International kite flyers showcased different designs and flying techniques, while local participants joined the event to celebrate the traditional and recreational side of kite flying. Organizers said the festival is aimed at strengthening cultural exchange and promoting Sri Lanka as a vibrant tourism destination. The event also provided an opportunity for international visitors to experience Sri Lankan culture while highlighting the country's potential as a destination for tourism, recreation, and large-scale cultural events. And finally, in Hanoi, one of ballet's most celebrated classics is bringing generations together as young and experienced dancers take the stage in a fresh interpretation of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. One of the world's best-known ballet classics, Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, has been given a new interpretation in Hanoi, with dancers from different generations sharing the stage. The production was staged by the Vietnam Youth Ballet Center and brought together 43 dancers ranging in age from 7 to 40. The performance retained the core story and the spirit of the classic work while introducing a more contemporary approach to choreography, movement, and stage presentation. Program director and artist Dam Han Jiang said the production aimed to present Swan Lake in a brighter and more modern style while allowing dancers of different ages to contribute their own energy and emotion. The cast included experienced performers alongside youth dancers with roles requiring technical precision, physical strength, and strong dramatic expression. Dancers also faced different technical challenges while preparing for the production, including demanding movements and contrasting roles such as the gentle white swan and more intense black swan. The performance highlighted the development of ballet in Vietnam and the growing involvement of younger generations in the art form. And that's all for this edition of The World This Week. We thank you for joining us and we hope you enjoyed as much as we did bringing it to you. We look forward to bringing you more of the stories shaping the world next week. You can also visit our website at www.nepaltelevision.com and follow us on our social media platforms and YouTube channel. I am Bhavna Kesi. Until next time, take care and goodbye.
culture and identity of a nation or community is deeply embedded in its craft and lifestyle. In this, specialized craft producers are major actors. Besides specialized skills and uniqueness, time adds value to such crafts. In this film, we explore two such specialized crafts, one in Kathmandu and the other in Niigata, that have played significant role in elevating their respective national culture and identity in the world's fair. The capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, is a spectacular blend of natural beauty and culture. Habitat to about 2.5 million people, the city holds a rich cultural history that dates back to the ancient times. The 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites it encompasses are evident to the fact. Swayambhunath, Bodhanath, Pashupatinath temple premises, Changunarayan temple area, as well as the 3 Darbar squares of Kathmandu, Patan and Bhaktapur enlisted in the UNESCO Cultural World Heritage Site are not only a glimpse of its civilization, but Nepalese treasured pride. The civilization of Kathmandu that lies 1400 meters above the sea level seemingly holds a close connection with copper products since time immemorial. Historical text has it that Kathmandu in ancient time was referred to as Nepal. Sanskrit lexicographers have a synonym of tamra or copper as Nepaliklam and Nepalam. Hence, the origin of the name Nepal is assumed to have been derived from the Sanskrit word copper. In Nepal, copper has been a basic raw material to a wide range of art and crafts, including in sculpture, architecture, detail and housewares making. Thus, it has over time been an integral part of Nepali civilization and lifestyle.
इस्वीको सुरुदेखि चाहिँ ताम्रको टुक्राहरूको व्यवहारबाट चाहिँ यसको चलनचल्ती भएको बुझिन्छ। त्यसपछि चाहिँ 6औं शताब्दीमा आएर चाहिँ यसबाट चाहिँ मुद्रा बनाउने चलन आयो। तिस्टुङको भटुवाल र पाल्चोक भन्ने दुई ठाउँमा अंशुवर्माले राखेको अभिलेखमा चाहिँ यो ताम्रभाण्ड तामाका भाँडाहरू चाहिँ सरकारको स्वीकृति बिना बाहिर लानु हुँदैन भन्ने उल्लेख आएको छ। ह्वेनसाङ चाहिँ भारतमा आएर भारतबाट चाहिँ नेपाल भएर चाहिँ चीन फर्केको बुझिन्छ। त्यो चाहिँ 643-44 ईस्वी सम्बततिर आएको बुझिन्छ। त्यो जुन कैलाशकूट भवन छ त्यो कैलाशकूट भवन बारे ह्वेनसाङले एकदमै राम्रो चाहिँ उल्लेख गरेको छ कि यो 7 तलाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ छाना चाहिँ तामाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ नेपालमा चाहिँ तामाको पैसा चाहिँ चल्तीमा छ। यहाँका मानिसहरूले भाँडाकुँडाहरू तामाको चलाउँछ। यी कुराहरू उल्लेख गरेको छ जुन चाहिँ चाइनाको टाङ वृत्तान्तमा अथवा इतिहासमा उल्लेख गरिएको छ।
The earliest known Ripause image is Garudasana Vishnu, dated 607 CE from Changunarayan temple in Bhaktapur. Some historical metal idols of the 6th and 7th century are remaining in private possession or in museum collections abroad. A significant consideration as evidence of copper metal craft are the idols dating back to the 11th century excavated in Makwanpur, which is a district adjoining Kathmandu. At the moment, these rare valuables are safely harbored at the Patan Darbar Square Museum. Among the 3 cities of Kathmandu Valley, Patan is comparatively popular for copper craft. Hundreds of families, especially the Newars, who are natives of this cultural city, have been preserving their ancestral legacy of manufacturing copperwares and artifacts for generations now. In Nepal, copper artifacts are made mainly through 2 techniques, either by lost waxing or repousse, which is a technique of pounding metal sheets. The Malla period between 1200 to 1482 is considered a golden era in terms of metalcraft in Nepal. An array of work dazzling in its quantity and quality was produced then, much of which survives. The popularity of Nepali artisans had reached far and wide. It was in this period that Araniko, the famous artisan, was taken to Tibet. In 1265, Emperor Kublai Khan of China, impressed with Araniko's work, invited him to the capital and got him to renovate the artifacts in the monastery there, dating back to the Song period. In 1274, Emperor Khan appointed Araniko the director of the court artisans in China. To date, artists in hundreds are committed to continue the legacy of copper craft in Nepal. Among them, some are successfully effortful to simultaneously take ahead promotion and expansion of the craft. Among such names is Rajkumar Shakya, renowned for his crafts and entrepreneurship. Shakya was born on 1966 in Patan, in a family of metal craftsmen.
हाम्रो पुर्खौली अब बाजे बराजुदेखि नै यही काममा लाग्नु भएको बुवाले काम गर्नु भएको जासलमा बसेर बुवासँगै बसेर खेल्दै सिक्दै काम गर्दै गर्दै परम्परागत तरिकाले नै सिकेको मैले सानो बेला सिक्दाखेरि त्यति बजार पनि थिएन यो कलाको अहिले आउँदाखेरि यो कलाको चाहिँ बजार पनि अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय जगतमा फैलिँदै गयो यसको चाहिँ उत्पादनमा पनि वृद्धि गर्नुपर्ने देखियो
Shakya's works have made a niche both in the national and international market. Passion, focus, devotion, and search for new ideas is what has elevated Shakya's profile as compared to other artists. The incomparable expression of skill and creation of beauty are reflected in his works, which are beyond imagination for any ordinary artists. His widely acclaimed works of craft have been placed at various countries, with Japan, Vietnam, China, Thailand harboring his significant works. The latest is the 155 feet tall idol of Guru Padmasambhav in Bhutan. Based on repousse, pounded sheets of copper were wrapped around iron skeleton, which was built using modern architecture. Supervised by Shakya, it took 4 years for 57 artisans to complete the idol.
2000 Expo ma जर्मनमा मैले सबभन्दा ठुलो स्वयम्भूको स्तूपा बनाउने अवसर पाएँ फेरि पछि चाहिँ 2010 मा चाइनामा पनि फेरि वर्ल्ड एक्सपोमा त्यहाँ पनि मैले चाहिँ ठुलो स्तूपा बनाउने र अरु कलाकृतिहरू बनाउने मौका पाएँ त्यसमा चाहिँ अझ मैले चाहिँ हाम्रो हनुमान ढोकाको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति 12 फिटको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति पनि बनाउने अवसर पाएँ। त्यो पनि त्यहाँ अब चाइनामा चाहिँ एक्सपोमा प्रदर्शन गर्न पाएँ। त्यसपछि अनि चाहिँ मैले भुटानमा पद्मसम्भवको मूर्ति बनाउने पनि अवसर पाएँ।
Cultural and anthropological experts have highly evaluated Shakya's efficiency and capabilities.
त्यो 14औं शताब्दीमा जुन परम्परा थियो हाम्रो नेपालबाट अन्य देशमा गएर चाहिँ नि कलाकारहरूले आफ्नो कला प्रस्तुत गर्ने, नेपालको कलाकारितालाई त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि स्थापित गर्ने जुन काम गरेको थियो, त्यसै कामको चाहिँ नि निरन्तरताको रूपमा अहिले हामीले 20औं 21औं शताब्दीमा राजकुमार साकेजीलाई पाएको छौं। यस्तो ठुलो ठुलो ह्युज त्यो मूर्तिहरू बनाउने क्रममा चाहिँ नि त्यो मूर्तिको एउटा स्थानबाट अर्को स्थानमा सार्नु, त्यस्तै गरी त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रोपोर्सनेट मिलाउने आदि इत्यादि टेक्निकल पनि एकदमै कठिन काम हो। अब यसलाई चाहिँ उहाँले अत्यन्तै माइन्युटली चाहिँ गर्नु हुँदो रहेछ।
To reach Shakya's stature, however, takes a lot of dedication, devotion, practice and patience. Thus, not many youth look keen in pursuing with the profession. Keeping this in mind, Shakya also conducts classes for the younger generation in a bid to hand it over to them. Most interestingly, Shakya's son is also one of his pupils and has already joined him in his business.
हेरिटेजमा नेपालको एकदम टुरिस्टहरु पनि एकदम आकर्षित भयो हेरिटेजमा हैन, त्यही भएर अब बुवा पनि यसमै लाग्नुभयो। त्यही पनि मैले नि यसमै गरौँ कि जस्तो मलाई लाग्यो। बुवा यति आर्टिस्ट भएर पनि अब मेरोमा पनि धेरै एक्सपेक्टेसन गर्छन् होला अरूले पनि, त्यही भएर अब सिक्न काम गाह्रो पनि छ, सिक्न अब टाइम पनि लाग्नेछ, धेरै सिक्न पनि त बाँकी छ।
Such noble endeavors, complemented by the engagement of the younger generation, have indeed sparked a hope that the prosperous tradition will be kept alive. For those involved in copper kitchenwares and housewares, the biggest emerging threat is the modern wares, which are both attractive and cheaper. In a bid to preserve their profession, they have now attempted to add diversity to their products based on the demand of the changing times. Meanwhile, there are others like Kalyan Krishna Tamrakar, who, although remaining in the trade, have embraced newer productions based on market needs. Tamrakar has been manufacturing artistic utensils along with internationally acclaimed singing bowls, which are mostly used in meditational purposes.
करीब 28 वर्ष भयो सिंगिङ बोल्स, नयाँ सिंगिङ बोल्स बनाउने र त्यसमा अलिकति थेरापिक युजको लागि बनाएको सायद नेपालमा पहिलो नै मैले बनाए होला। एउटा फिलोसफी हो र जहाँसम्म युटेन्सिल्स मैले बनाउने सन्दर्भमा पहिला यो धेरै पहिलाहरू बन्थ्यो र पछि बिस्तारै यो ब्रोन्जको युटेन्सिल्सहरू लोप हुँदै गयो। अनि यो बनाउनु पाए हुन्छ कि भनेर अनि हामीले यसलाई फेरि बनाउन थालेको।
The market for singing bowls is mostly Europe and is used in intensive research and meditation. The sound created from the balls vary based on the utensil itself and is proven effective for improving blood circulation and hence is used in therapy as well. Tamrakar, whose forefathers had been copper craftsmen by profession, has justifiably promoted their knowledge and skills in the wider market through entrepreneurship. Majority of his buyers are from Germany and Japan.
やはり他で買いが利かないのと、さらにその日本の求める品質にネパールの人たちが合わせてものを作ってくれるからと思います。
私のユーザーは心を癒すそういったツールを大変求めているユーザーが多いです。例えばアロマセラピーの方でヨガの方、そういった方たちの要望に応えるためにネパールから輸入しようと思いました。そうすると残ってる手作りは大変高い、ほとんどアーティストのレベルしか残りなくなります。 一般の方が使う商品はもう今やネパールでないとできないのが現状だと思っています。ですから私たちのユーザーはそれを望んでますから、今私もネパールから大変たくさんの量を輸入しています。
In the Yahikoyama terrain drained by Shinano River lies Niigata city. Rice farming is predominant owing to the rich soil deposit which makes it ideal for agriculture. Besides, it is also renowned for the high-quality copper mines. During the Meiji period, copper mining flourished in the foothills. Adorned in tulip blooms, the designated city of food and flowers does not rest even amidst thick blankets of snow. Tsubame in Niigata is a city of metal craft and craftsmen that have thrived through prosperity and tumultuous times. At the beginning of the 1600s, lot of artisans came to exist in the Tsubame Sanjo area, driven by the local administration's policy of encouraging side business. Thus originated the metal processing industry from the making of Japanese-style nails known as wakugi. The first artisans also produced household items including agricultural tools, kitchenwares and tobacco pipes. Once Japan started importing Western-style nails, the number of artisans gradually started decreasing. During the Second World War until 1945, the factories in the local area had to be mobilized to produce military goods. The 1950s was a time of mass production and mass consumption in Japan. Thus, metal processing companies grew multifold in number and size. Following the Plaza Accord that largely intervened currency markets, the factories gradually lost their business to their overseas competitors. They did not have as many orders as they once had. As a result, the local business temporarily but sharply declined.
今、燕市で追記銅器というふうに言われている、器といいますか、ものがありますけれども、それは一般的に金工でいう金属を加工する技術の中の単金と言われるものの一つでして、それを全国的に同じような技法はたくさんあるんですけれども、燕市ではそれを追記銅器と呼んでいる。燕市の追記銅器というのは伝統工芸技術としても県の指定にもなっておりますし、伝統工芸品としても指定されていますが、燕市の中ではだいたい今から250年くらい前の江戸時代の後期にその技術が仙台の方から来た職人によって伝わったと言われています。
Kakuhei Tamagawa also learned the technique from the craftsman and hence founded Gyokusendo in 1816. Since then, about 300 artisans have kept alive the traditional skills. The company is currently a leader in Niigata to preserve and expand the treasured tradition of tsukidoki. It is said during the Second World War, when weapons and arms mass production had peaked, the tsukidoki industry nearly disappeared owing to shortages of copper. It was Gyokusendo's then leadership that brought back the craftsmen dispersed across the country, that helped in the revival of the industry. Gyokusendo celebrates its 200th anniversary in 2016. Today, its outlets are spread in top-notch departmental stores in high-end streets of Japan and overseas. Motoyuki Tamagawa is the 7th master of Gyokusendo. Since taking over the company at an early age, he has worked hard to promote his products and company. Tamagawa, who strongly believes in adapting to business management style with time rather than changing age-old skill patterns, introduced the trend of putting his artisans in direct contact with the customers at Gyokusendo's outlets and during exhibitions. This, he believes, not only helps customer understand the skill and hard work required to create an artifact, but also helps the artisans learn the needs and tastes of the changing times.
顔の見える商売をしようと思ったんですよね。でそこで私が考えたのが商社を下ろさずに直接百貨店に行ってでそこで実演販売をして職人がお客様と会話するようなこのビジネスモデルを作ってるんですね。玉泉の方向としては、大量というよりは本当道具を愛用してくださる方に対してちゃんと説明してちゃんと愛用していただける方を対象としたやっぱり商売をしていきたいと思ってますので、だからそういうこと職人も、だから職人をどんどん増やすというわけではなくビジネスもどんどん大きくするわけではなくてちゃんと玉泉堂というブランドをね本当高めていくでお客様のその愛用する顧客満足度もやっぱり高めていくというところがすごく大事だと思ってますね。
At the Gyokusendo factory, about 15 artisans of various ages work hard by the day to improve their skills. Working with Gyokusendo is a dream for many artisans. Gyokusendo recruits one from among hundreds applying every year. For a craftsman, it can take about 20 to 30 years to acquire proficiency to handle a set of techniques all by himself. Each stroke in Tsukidoki is made in such a way such that the marks do not overlap. The proficiency of an artisan is observed in a vessel made out of one copper sheet and without any seams. For the younger artisans, it is a matter of a lot of perseverance and patience. Today, all independent Tsukidoki artisans in Tsubame were once trained at Gyokusendo. Among them, a prominent name is of an artist par excellence, Master Norio Tamagawa.
今のその木目金イコール木目金っていうのがもうのりおさんのことなんですけれども、その土台となっているのはやっぱり玉泉堂で修行していた時代の追記銅器という技術が骨幹にあって根元のところにあって、でそこから、亡くなられた師匠のところに、弟子入りをしたりですとか、いろんなご苦労修行の中でご苦労されながら、今、世界にも名前を馳せるようになった素晴らしい作品を作られるようになったと思います。
Master Norio Tamagawa is the pride of Niigata and is acclaimed as the living national treasure Japan. His insurmountable contribution in reviving mokumegane through his outstanding and unique creation is beyond comparison. The Tsubame Industrial History Museum, which is a hub to compile, preserve and exhibit industrial heritages, has set up a separate section to exhibit his works. This meticulously carved artifact harbored at the museum is the master's signature art piece. The masterpiece is a delicately hammered, refined handiwork that, owing to its traditional aura and aesthetic value, has awed art lovers and consumers across the world.
いわゆる就職って言いますか、会社へ入りますね。会社従業員として入って、何年か経った時に少し外の世界も見たいと思って東京へ2年ばかり修行に行ったんです。日本の芸大っていうね、その人たちとの交流もあったんで、その作品、私の場合はずっとほら商品を作ってたわけでしょ。商品じゃない作品作りのペースっていうのをね、 ああ違うもんだなっていうのをつくづく感じましたね。
The master reminisces it took him 11 years before he could call his product a piece of art. As a young artist, he took inspiration from his seniors to aim high and excel bigger dreams.
"作品作りには影響ないね。作品の場合はあくまでも個人のまあなんだ欲求のままに作るんですからね。世間が何を求めてるかっていうのはあんまり関係ない。っていうのは力がいる仕事なんでね。もう70過ぎてね現役っていうのは今まであんまりいなかったんです。だから私はまあ仕方ないからやってるけども、だから夢はないけどももう作品をいくつ作れるか。
The traditional skill nurtured by newer skills, tools and technology has elevated the 200-year-old technique to a world-class art. Contemporary sukidoki products include a wide range of aesthetically distinctive housewares and artifacts. Mr. Tatsushi Tamagawa, currently the chief manager at Gyokusendo, is Master Norio Tamagawa's son. He started as an artisan at Gyokusendo. Since then, much has changed. He has seen the changing business landscape, the diversity in products, which he says directly or indirectly determines the mindset and working style of an artisan.
言われたものを、早くきっちり作るっていうのがでもいい職人だと思うんですけども、最近はプラスいろいろこういう喋るものとかも今はそういうふうに、いろいろお客様に説明するとかそういうものも含まれて、全てこなしていい職人になるのかなという感じは最近はありますね。
Most fascinatingly, his son Keita, the youngest of the Tamagawas, also works under him at Gyokusendo. At 20, Keita is already an efficient beginner. Initially, driven by his grandfather's success when he joined the company, it was but a prized escape for Keita. But now, Keita is intensively working hard to attain the precision to be a better artist.
そうですね。どちらの方もすごい仕事に対して一生懸命で寡黙なので、そういうところを自分に取り入れられたらいいなとは思ってますね。なんか、僕のお父さんもなんだおじいちゃんに真似してるっていうか似てきているのでなんかそうですね。おじいちゃんからはやっぱりちょっと仕事がすごいテキパキ早いので、そういうところをちょっと見習いたいなとは思いますね。そういうところです。はい。
Since the beginning of human civilization, art has evolved based on culture and vice versa. Nevertheless, the demand of changing times has had a detrimental role to play in its course and form. Whether it is Niigata or Kathmandu, artisans continue to express themselves in their artworks. There is little doubt the modern-day artisan's creativity, aided by modern technology, has not only helped preserve traditional skills, but also contributed to the ascent of human civilization.
Only after 6 decades of the institutional development of the now popular game of cricket did Nepal get the opportunity to play in the World Cup. Although cricket was introduced in Nepal during the Rana regime, the sport was confined to a limited number of people, namely the elite. It all started with equipment brought by students returning from their studies in Britain and India. Although Cricket Association of Nepal (CAN) was established in 1947, cricket remained centered among a few affluent individuals and in limited tournaments for a long time. Starting with the Bishnu Trophy in 1948, tournaments were limited to competitions like the Madan Memorial Sealed, Jugal Kishore Trophy, Rammani Trophy, and later the Jai Trophy. Even as the sport expanded outside Kathmandu Valley, it took decades for cricket to develop at the grassroots level. After the International Cricket Council (ICC) granted Nepal affiliate membership in 1988, Nepali cricket embarked on its international journey. The rule of mandatory participation in tournaments by the ICC and the Asian Cricket Council (ACC) opened doors to international competition for Nepal. After participating in the Under-19 Asian tournament in Hong Kong in 1996, Nepal has not looked back. Winning titles at the Asian and global levels, Nepali cricket team continues its journey towards the pinnacle of world cricket.
Goes down the ground because he was given that line outside off stump, so the first boundary of the contest, a handsome one.
Initially confined to Turikhel in Kathmandu, many international tournaments were hosted in Nepal after an international standard ground was built in Kirtipur. Nepal has also shown its proactiveness in differently abled cricket tournaments like the T20 World Cup for the blind in 2012 and the Asian Cricket Tournament for the deaf. Nepali women's national cricket team has also achieved remarkable success in a short period of time. The latest addition in Nepali cricket is the floodlit Tribhuvan University Cricket Stadium and the Nepal Premier League that has provided opportunity for Nepali players to rub shoulders with world-class players.
Japanese encephalitis cases rise in Nepal, 13 deaths reported among 54 cases in the past 8 months. Nepal makes hospital death records mandatory, new digital system to record medical causes and curb fraudulent registrations. Home Minister says no justice to innocent Gen Z protesters, panel formed to implement deals with victims' families. Nepal boosts LPG supply amid rising demand. Government says stocks are sufficient, urges against hoarding. Record rains kill at least 8 in eastern Japan. Flooding and landslides disrupt transport, leave thousands stranded at Tokyo airport. And Nepal cricket team heads to India ahead of ACC Premier Cup side to train in India before travelling to Malaysia for regional tournament. Good evening, I'm Suveksha Rajak and you are watching NTV World News Hour, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. Japanese encephalitis cases are rising in Nepal as the monsoon season increases mosquito-borne diseases. Since December, 54 cases have been confirmed nationwide, with 13 deaths, nearly 1 in 4 patients. While children under 15 are covered by vaccination, unvaccinated adults, particularly those over 50, remain at risk. Health authorities urge people to prevent mosquito bites, avoid stagnant water, and keep pig and duck sheds away from homes. Nepal has introduced a new digital system requiring hospitals to record the medical cause of every death. Under a new government directive, all public, community and private hospitals must record the initial, intermediate and final causes of death in line with international and WHO standards. The system will cover patients who die in hospital, on the way to hospital, arrive dead or undergo post-mortem examinations. Families will receive a death certificate with a unique identification number, which can be used to register the death at their local ward office. The system will also be linked with national health and civil registration databases aimed at improving transparency and preventing fraudulent death records. Nepal's Home Minister Gurung has defended the Home Secretary and Police Chief, saying officials should not be declared guilty or have their reputation damaged simply because complaints have been filed against them. Speaking at a parliamentary committee meeting, Gurung said allegations must be addressed through due legal and judicial procedures rather than by treating complaints as proof of wrongdoing.
हाम्रो प्रहरी प्रमुखज्यूहरूलाई जसरी जुन व्यवहारले एउटा समितिले प्रस्तुत गर्नुभयो त्यसमा चाहिँ गृहमन्त्रीको ध्यान आकर्षण भएको छ. दिस इज नट राइट, दिस इज नट गुड. कसैलाई एउटा भनौँ न उजुरीको भरमा हामी न्यायाधीश बन्न चाहिँ मिल्दैन र आरोप हो. त्यो आरोप जो कोहीले लाउनु सक्यो भन्दैमा कसैको चरित्र हत्या चाहिँ गर्न पाइँदैन. त्यो चाहिँ मेरो विचारमा त्यसमा नि कानुनमा के गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई चाहिँ. इट इज नट गुड. अनि हाम्रो गृह मन्त्रालयकै ध्यान आकर्षण भएको छ यसमा चाहिँ. यो चौकीदारको नियुक्तिमा हामीले ट्रान्सपेरेन्ट हिसाबले गर्नुपर्ने. जेल जाँदाखेरि मान्छेले कमाएर आउने भयो क्या. समस्या चाहिँ यो होइन, बुझ्नुभयो नि होइन. अनि यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले मान्छेलाई त बारम्बार जेल जानु मन लाग्यो. तपाईँले जति हामीले समितिमा बैठक गरेर पनि यो तरिकाले हामीले जति जे गरे नि त्यो कतिखेर के क्राइम गरौँ र भित्र गएर पैसा कमाउँ जस्तो गरेर एउटा माइन्डसेट हुन थाल्यो क्या मान्छेले. भित्र गएर कमाउँछ भन्दा बाहिरभन्दा भित्र कमाउँछ भने मान्छे भित्र जाने भयो परिवार पाल्न त होइन. त्यही भएर यो चौकीदारको नियुक्तिमा पनि ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी आओस् भनेर हामीले त्यही हाम्रो महानिर्देशक ज्यू डिजी साहबलाई हामी त्यही अनुसार निर्देशन पनि दिएको छौँ.
The Home Minister also said the government has temporarily suspended prison appointments amid concerns over irregularities and misuse of prison facilities, with new transparent criteria to be introduced. Moving on, Nepal has formed a 13-member committee to oversee implementation of agreements reached with Gen Z protesters and affected families. The panel will coordinate support in education, healthcare and employment and address practical challenges in delivering the government's integrated package.
Gen Z आन्दोलनका शहीद परिवार र घाइतेहरूका लागि चाहिँ एउटा समन्वित पुनर्स्थापना गर्न जीवनयापन तथा सामाजिक संरक्षण सम्बन्धी एकीकृत प्याकेजको स्वीकृति गरेको छ र त्यो प्याकेजमा भएका कुराहरू र त्यो सम्झौताको विषयलाई चाहिँ कार्यान्वयन गर्नको लागि अन्तर्मन्त्रालयगत अन्तर्निकायगत समन्वय र सहजीकरण गर्ने उद्देश्यले यस कार्यालयको सहसचिवको संयोजकतामा संयोगले म नै त्यसको संयोजक छु र त्यो सँगै अर्थ मन्त्रालय, गृह मन्त्रालय लगायत अन्य 7 वटा मन्त्रालयका प्रतिनिधिहरू रहेर यहाँ यस कार्यालयको प्रादेशिक तथा के भन्छ कूटनीतिक मामिला, राष्ट्रिय सुरक्षा कूटनीतिक मामिला शाखाको उपसचिव सदस्य सचिव रहने गरी 13 जनाहरूको मेम्बर्सहरू रहने गरी एउटा कमिटी गठन भएको छ। त्यसमा चाहिँ शहीद परिवारको तर्फबाट 2 जना र घाइते जेनजी आन्दोलनका घाइतेहरूको तर्फबाट 2 जना प्रतिनिधि समेत रहने गरी एउटा कमिटी गठन भएको छ र त्यो कमिटीले आफ्नो पहिलो बैठक बसेर कार्यारम्भ पनि गरिसकेको छ।
The committee will facilitate implementation and review progress on the agreements and support package. Now moving on, Nepalis are reeling out the fears of a cooking gas shortage as concerns over supplies have triggered increasing demand for LPG cylinders. The government, however, says there is no shortage and that supply is currently higher than demand. Daily distribution has been increased to 132,000 cylinders compared with an average of 110,000 under normal conditions. Officials have urged consumers not to stockpile gas and say efforts are underway to increase imports over the coming 3 months. Authorities are also prioritizing households with a single cylinder as well as elderly people, people with disabilities and new mothers. At least 8 persons have died as record rainfall pummeled eastern Japan and left thousands stranded at Tokyo's Narita airport. The rains, which authorities have described as unprecedented, cut power to more than 20,000 households in Chiba Prefecture. Local authorities issued a level 5 emergency warning, its highest alert, on Thursday. This was downgraded to a level of 4 by Friday morning, but they continue to warn of landslide and flooding risk. The deluge comes after a series of storms swept through Japan and neighboring countries this week, in what meteorologists forecast to be an unusually active typhoon season. Nepal's national cricket team has been sent off for a training camp in India ahead of ACC Premier Cup in Malaysia. The Cricket Association of Nepal CAN says the team will train in India before travelling directly to Malaysia for the tournament, which begins on August 29th. Captain Sandeep Lamachame said the team's blend of experienced players and young talent makes the future exciting. He also expressed his commitment to accepting criticism and answering it through strong performances on the field.
जति पनि हाम्रो पास छ त्यसलाई एउटा पछाडी छोडेर अब जति पनि क्रिटिसिजम छ त्यसमा हामीले आफैले पक्कै पनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ ग्राउन्ड गर्नुपर्ने नै हुन्छ तर त्यसको एउटा जवाब मात्रै भनेको हामीले मैदानमा गएर राम्रो खेल्नु बाहेक केही पनि अरु विकल्प हुँदैन सो we definitely going to try our best and put up a good show over there in Bangalore and in Malaysia and wherever we go in future.
A deadly mosquito-borne disease is raising fresh alarm in Nepal, with Kosi emerging as a hot spot. Health officials are stepping up preventive efforts. We take a look into this in our issue of the day after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour, and it's time for Issue of the Day. Japanese encephalitis is becoming an increasing public health concern in Nepal, with infections and deaths rising across the country. Since the start of the Nepali month of Push, 54 people have tested positive in 21 districts and 13 have died, a fatality rate of 24%. Koshi province is the worst affected, reporting 20 cases and 6 deaths. Chapa alone has recorded 5 deaths among 8 patients. Doctors say adults and elderly people over 50 who missed childhood vaccinations now among those most at risk. The virus is transmitted by Culex mosquitoes, which become infected after biting pigs or ducks. Health experts are urging people to eliminate standing water, keep livestock away from homes, and use mosquito nets, especially at night. With no specific antiviral treatment for Japanese encephalitis, vaccination and mosquito bite prevention remain the key lines of defense. Against the backdrop, Japanese encephalitis cases are also rising in Koshi province, prompting the provincial health directorate in Thankuta to step up public awareness and urge people to protect themselves from mosquito bites. Health officials say simple measures such as preventive stagnant water around homes and keeping pigs and duck sheds away from residential areas can help reduce the risk of infection. They are also urging people to remain alert and seek medical attention promptly if symptoms of Japanese encephalitis develop. Rojena Rai with our local correspondent Mohan Manandar brings the report.
Japanese encephalitis infections have been increasing in Koshi province in recent weeks. Health officials warn that elderly people, those with chronic illnesses, and people with weakened immunity are at greater risk of developing severe infections. According to the Provincial Health Directorate in Thankuta, 242 suspected cases have been reported in 16 local units across 4 districts. So far, 8 people have died from the disease in the province. The Provincial Health Directorate has urged the public to remain vigilant and take preventive measures against the infection. Japanese encephalitis is a potentially fatal viral disease that affects the brain and is transmitted through the bite of infected Culex mosquitoes.
समयमा उपचार गरेन भने अब यसको खास मेडिसिन नभएकोले गर्दाखेरि त्यो सिम्पटोमेटिक ट्रिटमेन्ट गर्ने हो समयमा उपचार गर्नु पर्यो हस्पिटल समयमा आउनु पर्यो पहिला भन्दा मान्छे सजग भएकोले गर्दाखेरि छिटो हस्पिटल आइपुग्छ अनि छिटो हस्पिटल आयो भने अब हामीले छिटो डायग्नोसिस पनि गरिहाल्छौँ जस्तै यसको अब डायग्नोसिस भन्दाखेरि मेन डायग्नोसिस भनेपछि लम्बर पङ्क्चर सीएसएफ फ्लुइड हामी बाहिर पठाउँछौँ अब त्यो नआउन्जेलसम्म पनि हामीले पहिला नै उपचार गरिरहन्छौँ.
Nationwide, 830 suspected cases of Japanese encephalitis have been reported, with 54 cases confirmed, while 13 people have died from the disease across the country. Health officials say the risk of infection increases during the monsoon season when mosquito activity rises. They advise people to take precautions to avoid mosquito bites, as there is no specific treatment for Japanese encephalitis. Doctors recommend seeking immediate medical attention if symptoms such as high fever, severe headache, stiff neck, tremors, or seizures develop.
जसको मोर्टालिटी रेट हुन्छ मृत्यु दर चाहिँ हुन्छ नि अत्याधिक छ सही समयमा त्यसलाई पत्ता लगाउन सकिएन भने त्यसबाट चाहिँ मृत्यु दर चाहिँ अहिले पनि भर्खरै यो बर्खाको सिजनहरु मध्ये बर्खाको सिजन हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ अहिले अलिकति बढिरहेको छ र यस्तो किसिमको बिरामीहरु चाहिँ अलि बढ्दो रूपमा यो पूर्वी क्षेत्रमा चाहिँ देखा परेको छ.
The Provincial Health Directorate claims that none of those who died from the disease in Koshi province had been vaccinated.
As concerns grows over the spread of Japanese encephalitis, prevention at the community level has become increasingly important. So what are people living in the affected areas doing to protect themselves and their families from the disease? We spoke to local residents to hear their views and understand how communities are responding to the growing risk in our public pulse today.
सार्ने काम चाहिँ क्युलेक्स प्रजातिको लामखुट्टेको टोकाइबाट जापानिज इन्सेफलाइटिस सर्ने भएकोले जुन जुन ठाउँमा लामखुट्टे ग्रोथ हुन्छ बढ्छ वृद्धि हुन्छ ती ठाउँहरूलाई निर्मूल गर्ने एउटा निर्मूल गर्न नसकेको खण्डमा लामखुट्टेको टोकाइबाट बस्ने
हस्पिटल जाने हस्पिटल गएर चेक जाँच गराउने अब चेक जाँच गराएपछि रिपोर्ट आउँछ कि यो भएछ के भएछ अब त हामीहरूलाई थाहा छैन अब त्यो त डाक्टरलाई थाहा हुनु पर्यो.
सुँगुरबाट चाहिँ बढी सर्छ भन्यो अब सुँगुर पनि तपाईलाई एकदम राम्रो जता फोहोर हुनु भएन नि त सुँगुर पाल्दा राम्रोसँगले पालेर आफूले गरेर जो त्यो सफा सुग्घर राख्यो भने त्यसबाट हामीलाई आउँदैन नि
सरसफाइहरू हैन सरसफाइमा ध्यान दिनु पर्यो अनि यो सायद 5-5 वर्षमा लाउने इन्जेक्सन होला सायद जस्तो लाग्छ सायद त्यही नै हो अनि 5-5 वर्षमा चाहिँ यसलाई चाहिँ लाउनु पर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ थाहा छ
प्रिभेन्सनको मेथड चाहिँ जापानिज इन्सेफ्लाइटिसको महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा भ्याक्सिनेसन हो जेईको खोप पनि उपलब्ध छ त्यसपछि यो सुँगुर फार्महरू जुन छ सुँगुर पालनलाई चाहिँ नियन्त्रण गर्यो भने यसबाट चाहिँ बच्न सकियो अर्को चाहिँ हजुरलाई पर्सनल प्रोटेक्सन भन्छौँ व्यक्तिगत सुरक्षाको कुरा झुल लाउने कुराहरू झुल के अरे मस्किटोले मच्छरले नटोक्ने कुराहरूलाई हामीले प्रमोसन गर्न सक्यो भने बच्न सक्यो
पहिला हस्पिटलै जानु पर्यो घरको उपचारले कहाँ हो प्राथमिक उपचार घरको गर्ने भन्दा प्राथमिक उपचार गरिहालिन्छ नि त्यो साधारण त्यो हुने रहेछ भने त भइगयो नभए हस्पिटल नजिकै छ हस्पिटलै जाइन्छ नगर हस्पिटल छ
कि अब त्यो सुँगुर बङ्गुरलाई पनि दबाई छ नियन्त्रणको लागि भने त्यो दबाईहरू राखेर अब उसलाई लगाएर हुन्छ कि राखेर हुन्छ कसरी हुन्छ अलिक आफूभन्दा धेरै टाढा हैन त्यस्तो अब त्यस्तोमा पाल्दा चाहिँ सही हुन्छ कि
A surge in LPG demand is putting Nepal's cooking gas market under pressure. Authorities are moving to ease public concerns and prevent panic buying. A look into Nepal's prime cooking market in the story that follows after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. And it's time for our cover story. A rush to secure cooking gas is putting Nepal's LPG distribution system under pressure. The government insists there is no shortage, saying supplies are actually exceeding normal demand. But with consumers buying more cylinders and concerns over availability growing, authorities are taking steps to prevent panic buying and keep the market supplied. Siksha Patrai with Kamal Arial brings more.
For many households across Nepal, the cooking gas cylinder is an essential part of daily life. And now, a sharp increase in demand is forcing the government to reassure consumers there is enough LPG to go around. Authorities say Nepal is currently receiving more cooking gas than it normally consumes. On an average day, around 110,000 cylinders enter the market. That number has now risen to about 132,000 cylinders a day. The government says the increase is aimed at meeting a surge in demand after the Nepal Oil Corporation began distributing fully filled cylinders.
बढीभन्दा बढी आयात गर्दै सिलिन्डरहरू भर्दै बजारमा पठाउँदै त्यो ग्यापहरू पूर्ति गर्दै 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 जानुको हामीसँग विकल्प छैन हामी त्यसै गरी नै गइरहेको अवस्था हो केही अस्वस्थ यहाँले महसुस गर्नुभएको छ त्यो अस्वस्थ महसुस हुन नदिने गरी हामी काम गर्छौं
But officials are looking beyond the immediate supply situation. Nepal normally consumes between 42,000 and 45,000 metric tons of LPG each month. Current supplies, according to the Nepal Oil Corporation, have reached around 52,000 metric tons a month.
दुईटा सिलिन्डर भएकोले तीनवटा चारवटा कतै त होल्ड त हामी गरिरहेछौं जसले के भइरहेछ भने जो वास्तवमा भिक्टिम व्यक्ति छ एउटा दुईटा वाला त्यो चाहिँ हामी सफर गर्न सकिरहेछौं.
Despite those figures, concerns among consumers have triggered increased monitoring of the market. The government says it has also asked India to raise Nepal's LPG import quota to 60,000 metric tons for the next 3 months. Industry representatives are also urging consumers not to panic.
बजारमा सर्टेज त छ छैन भने पनि त छ त्यो केले हो भन्नुहुन्छ भने हाम्रो बुझाइ एउटा 7.1 केजी अलि लामो समयसम्म भयो कुन समयमा त्यो ब्रेक डाउन हुनु पर्थ्यो भन्ने बारेमा पनि हामीले तत्कालीन सजीवजी उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले यसको जानकारी गराएका थियौं.
Authorities have ordered distributors to prioritize households with only one cylinder, along with elderly people, people with disabilities, and new mothers. And if demand rises further, the government says LPG will be sold 24 hours a day from 50 locations across the country. The immediate challenge is not simply getting more gas into Nepal. It's making sure that fear of a shortage does not create one.
That was our cover story. Now moving into other updates. At least 3 Nepali pilgrims have been killed and more than 34 others injured after their bus crashed into a stationary truck in India's Jharkhand state on Friday. The bus was carrying around 45 pilgrims from Nepal's Rohtahar district who had travelled to Deoghar to visit the Hindu shrine of Baba Baidyanath Dham. The group was heading towards Rajgir in Bihar when the bus hit the back of a truck parked by the roadside near Pukharadiha More. The dead was identified as 10-year-old Shivam Kumar, 60-year-old Sundar Bala and 60-year-old Naval Kishore. 7 of the injured are reported to be in critical condition. Police said all the injured were taken to a community health center while those in serious conditions were referred to a district hospital for further treatment. The pilgrims had left Rohtahar for India about 4 days earlier. Moving on, 4 people have been killed in landslides triggered by heavy rain in Rolpa district in western Nepal. The landslide struck Harbag and Falbang in Sunchahari rural municipality too overnight. The victims include 3 women and 1 man, aged between 57 and 70. 2 of the victims were a married couple, while another woman was visiting their home. Police and local residents are continuing rescue efforts at the sites. 3 people were also injured when a landslide buried cowshed and damaged nearby houses. The incident comes just days after another landslide in Thabang killed 10 people. 3 others remain missing, while 2 critically injured victims are receiving treatment in Butwal. Nepali Congress leaders, dissatisfied with the party established faction, have stressed the need for unity, saying a united party is essential to strengthen democracy and address challenge facing the country. Speaking at the inaugural session of 3-day national gathering organized by the Deuba faction, the leaders said the party's unity was crucial to resolving the crisis facing Nepali Congress and protecting its democratic values. Leader Dr. Prakash Sharan Mahat compared the conduct of the party's special general convention with the Gen Z movement in Nepal. He said the Nepali Congress faced an unexpected election result and expressed hope that Supreme Court would deliver justice to the entire party. Leader NP South said the party had fallen into crisis after the special general convention was conducted hastily, driven by the ambitions of certain leaders. Mahalakshmi Upadhyay Dina said the contributions and struggles of senior leaders should be recognized to take the party forward. Ramesh Lekhak said the untimely conduct of the special general convention had pushed the party into trouble. Bir Bahadur Balaya said Nepali Congress must not compromise on the principles of BP Koirala. The leaders collectively stressed the need for unity within the Nepali Congress. The national gathering is being held in Kathmandu, which will hold closed sessions on Saturday and Sunday. Nepal Communist Party parliamentary leader Khagaraj Bhatta has been appointed Chief Minister of Nepal's Sudurpashchim province. Province Chief Nazir Milan appointed Bhatta under Article 168, Sub-Article 2 of Nepal's constitution after he stalked a claim to form the government with the support of Nepal Communist Party and CPN-UML. Bhatta was sworn in on Friday and has since taken office as the province's 5th Chief Minister. Following his appointment, Bhatta said the new role carries greater responsibility and pledge to focus on political stability and development in Sudurpashchim. He has also appointed 3 ministers and 1 state minister to his cabinet. Bhatta's appointment follows the resignation of former Chief Minister Kamal Bahadur Shah. Province Chief Mian has called for formation of a new government after Shah stepped down. Nepal's Bagmati Province Chief Minister Indra Bahadur Bania is preparing to seek a confidence vote in the Provincial Assembly on August 17th. Bania's Nepali Congress says talks are underway with other parties to secure support. The Hamro Nepali Party, which holds 2 seats, has also joined the government. The 104-member assembly requires 53 votes for majority. The Nepali Congress has 36 seats, while the CPN-UML has 25 and the CPN has 26. Nepal's government has tightened control on foreign travel by civil servants and other government employees, introducing new rules aimed at reducing unnecessary trips and public spending. The Prime Minister's office has directed all ministries and government agencies to obtain prior approval before nominating any employee for an overseas visit. Foreign trips without approval will no longer be permitted. Under the new rules, officials must also share the knowledge and experience gained during their trip with colleagues within 5 days of returning to work. The government says the measures are intended to make official travel more economical, transparent and results-oriented. Professor Dr. Vivek Baral has been appointed Vice-Chancellor of Kathmandu University. Prime Minister and University Chancellor Balendra Shah appointed Baral following a recommendation from the Vice-Chancellor Selection Committee. Baral is a professor of mechanical engineering at Kathmandu University. He becomes the first person educated at the university to later serve as its Vice-Chancellor. He holds a master's degree from the University of Tokyo in Japan and a PhD from University of Auckland in New Zealand. Baral's areas of expertise include energy and fuels, combustion science, environmental pollution, and thermofluid engineering. Before we check more from the international front, let's have a recap of the headlines. Japanese encephalitis cases rise in Nepal, 13 deaths reported among 54 cases in the past 8 months. Nepal makes hospital death records mandatory. Nepali digital system to record medical causes and curb fraudulent registrations. Home Minister says no injustice to innocent Gen Z protesters. Panel formed to implement deals with victims' families. Nepal boosts LPG supply amid rising demand. Government says stocks are sufficient. Urges against hoarding. Record rains kill at least 8 in eastern Japan. Flooding and landslide disrupt transport, leave thousands stranded at Tokyo airport. And Nepal cricket team heads to India ahead of ACC Premier Cup. Side to train in India before travelling to Malaysia for regional tournament. It's time for international updates, and we have U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has said that more than 40 countries has helped China sidestep U.S. tariffs by routing exports through nations that face lower American import duties. The countries named include Canada, India, Mexico, Japan and South Korea, which the White House said had helped China evade tens of billions of dollars in tariffs, which are levied on companies importing goods. The U.S. accused China of taking advantage of the practice by moving goods through nations that have lower import duties. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro said it had cost American jobs and billions in revenue. The report follows a wave of sanctions between the U.S. and China and comes weeks before U.S. President Donald Trump will meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Washington. Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said he had asked U.S. President Donald Trump during a phone call to grant Australia an exemption from tariffs imposed on the country last month. Albanese said he had requested either a full exemption or, at the very least, no further increase in the tariffs.
We have a different position when it comes to tariffs. And of course, our position as a government is that tariffs an economic imposition and a cost on the countries that are imposing them, and we support free and fair trade. The President, of course, has a different position that he's expressed on many times.
Thai schools have introduced tighter security measures following last week's deadly shooting near Bangkok. Students are now facing stricter checks, with teachers inspecting bags, pockets and even pencil cases before classes begin. The measures follow the August 7th attack, in which 14-year-old killed his grandparents, 5 school staff members, and a pupil before taking his own life. The government has ordered schools nationwide to strengthen security and prevent weapons from being brought onto school premises. Authorities say the measures are aimed at protecting students and staff amid renewed concerns over school safety. Business news lined up next. For now, a short breather.
Oil prices rose on Friday and were on track for weekly gains after the United States threatened an indefinite naval blockade of Iran, raising concerns about disruptions to crude supplies from the Middle East. Brent crude futures rose $1.43 or 1.64% to $88.50 a barrel at 8:10 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate or WTI crude futures gained $1.56 or 1.92% to $82.81 a barrel. On Thursday, the U.S. warned it could maintain a naval blockade of Iran indefinitely and ramp up economic pressure on Tehran as ceasefire talks have stalled. The latest U.S. threats come as Iran curbs flows through the Strait of Hormuz, which handled about 1/5 of global daily oil and liquefied natural gas supplies before the conflict began in late February. Indonesia's president mulled the possibility of a special court on Friday to investigate unproductive boards reporting made-up profits as he vowed to close 750 state-owned enterprises by year-end. Southeast Asia's biggest economy has long battled corruption in its public and private sectors despite strengthening anti-graft laws, creating special investigative commissions and arresting several high-profile people. The government says the restructuring is aimed at improving accountability, efficiency, and the performance of state-owned businesses.
Time now for the sports update. New Zealand has broken rank with Oceania's football governing body to become the latest nation to withdraw support for FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Infantino has lost support from 3 regional confederations, Europe's UEFA, the Asian Football Confederation AFC, and CONCACAF North and Central America and the Caribbean over his aborted plans to sell 20% of the World Cup's commercial rights to private investors. The Confederation of African Football CAF and South American governing body CONMEBOL have backed the 56-year-old to win a 4th presidential term at the FIFA Congress in March. New Zealand has followed several individual member nations including England, Wales, Norway, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland in confirming they will not support Infantino's re-election bid. Tennis is gaining popularity in the Philippines following the rapid rise of 21-year-old Alexandra Ella, the country's first homegrown tennis sensation. Her success has sparked growing interest in the sport, with more children taking to courts across Manila and aspiring to follow in her footsteps. On a Manila court made of crushed seashells, young players are now beginning their own tennis journeys, inspired by the emerging star. Her rise is giving the sport a new generation of young followers and helping drive growing tennis boom across the country. Tennis has traditionally been viewed as a sport for the country's wealthier communities, but Ella's breakthrough is helping broaden its appeal. Now to the weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. This brings us to the end of this edition, but before we say goodbye, here's a quick reminder of our top stories. Japanese encephalitis cases rise in Nepal, 13 deaths reported among 54 cases in the past 8 months. Nepal makes hospital death records mandatory, new digital system to record medical causes and curb fraudulent registrations. Home Minister says no injustice to innocent Gen Z protesters, panel formed to implement deals with victim families. Nepal boosts LPG supply amid rising demand, government says stocks are sufficient, urges against hoarding. Record rains kill at least 8 in eastern Japan, flooding and landslides disrupt transport, leave thousands stranded at Tokyo airport. And Nepal cricket team heads to India ahead of ACC Premier Cup side to train in India before travelling to Malaysia for regional tournament. And it's the end of this edition of NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Suviksha Rajagan. Thank you for staying with us. Good night.